Chapter 1787. The undying heavenly domain was in an uproar. Who didn't know about Big Brother Prehistoric? During the battle at Heavenly Sun Prefecture, he was terrifyingly arrogant, killing Daozu experts one after another. He was the strongest protector of the Celestial Court. Now that he was here, he directly stepped into the outer world and shocked everyone. One had to admit that this also caused a huge commotion. The experts of the various sects in the undying heavenly domain were all shocked. How strong was Big Brother Prehistoric? How much confidence did he have? Could it be that due to the suppression of the environment, he lacked the strongest battle strength? Without a doubt, since he walked out, it meant that he was strong and prosperous enough. Big Brother. Su Yan's breathing was heavy. He didn't expect Big Brother Prehistoric to directly kill his way out and stand in the outer world, facing all the experts of the immortal sects alone. Su Yan quickly returned. The old leader transmitted. The five-element ring interfered again and again because of the existence of the two-realm battlefield. He couldn't stay here for long. Su Yan nodded. He quickly searched for the space-time treasure on Xian Yu's body and took the 3,000 gene immortal source along with it. Immortal source, 3,000 gene. The eyes of the young elites of the immortal sects turned red. This was a full 3,000 gene immortal source. To the immortal Martial King, this was a huge fortune. It was also something exclusive to the immortal world. It was hard to buy even half a gene in the market. But now, Su Yan had obtained a full 3,000 gene. This was enough to make everyone's eyes red with envy. Su Yan also laughed heartily. 3,000 gene immortal source was enough for him to rush into the Saint Realm. Perhaps he could also use this huge amount of resources to break through one small realm after another. Cultivating in the Saint Realm was too difficult. It would easily take thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years to accumulate enough resources to break through. After all, the environment of this world couldn't be compared to the immortal world. But 3,000 gene immortal source was enough for Daesung to sell his life for him. He got just like that. I should break through. This batch of immortal source came at the right time. Su Yan thought to himself. The gains from the gambling battle were too great. Su Yan would not continue. It was not that he was afraid. In fact, Su Yan felt that he could no longer suppress his cultivation level. Previously, when his battle with Xian Yu was close to exploding, he could not control himself. If the suppression was too severe, it was very likely that some of the potential would be destroyed. And the immortal Martial King was infuriated. 3,000 gene of immortal origin and the world-extinguishing halberd. Su Yan's gains were simply too shocking. If he didn't participate in the following battles, all of his plans would have been ruined. Boom! The five elements ring was shaking. It really wanted to suppress it, imprison Su Yan, and bring him back to the immortal world. After stirring up such a great storm and paying such a heavy price, if they couldn't bring Su Yan away, they wouldn't have the face to return to their families. After all, just a matter of using the Celestial Realm gates for personal gain, even the Emperor clans would have to bear a great responsibility. It should be known that the greatest purpose of the Celestial World Gate was to seal off the Dark Calamity. If any accidents were to occur, no one would be able to bear the responsibility. What are the protectors of the Celestial Court doing? They are forcing their way to the Celestial World Gate. Are they trying to negotiate with them directly? Who knows? Earlier, a major character from the immortal world interfered in the battle. Could it be that the protectors of the Celestial Court want to seek an explanation? A group of Daozu experts from the undying heavenly region discussed. Now that things had developed to this point, they were all doubting the immortal world. Did they really have the heart to stop the Dark Calamity? But no matter what, only the Celestial World Gate had the qualifications to resist the Dark Calamity. Some people didn't wish for a conflict to occur and wanted to sit down and have a discussion. Halt your steps. Instantly, a marquee from the Celestial World Gate roared in anger, emitting a terrifying aura. This was a Daesung expert. His aura was so powerful that it could shock the world. He stared at the prehistoric Big Brother with a bone-chilling gaze and said, "The Celestial World Gate doesn't allow outsiders to enter." Stay where you are." The prehistoric big brother walked over step by step. His head of gray hair covered half of his face. His eyes were filled with coldness, and he had no intention of stopping. The expressions of the immortal martial king and the sky tyrant lord sank as they stared at the prehistoric big brother. At this moment, they couldn't tell how strong or weak this big brother was. It was like they were staring at a pitch-black abyss. Their hearts trembled. This big brother most likely wasn't a weakling. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the courage to rush out of the undying heavenly region and enter the celestial world gate. Audacious. Offending the celestial world gate is a crime punishable by death. All of a sudden, a powerful marquis stepped out from the celestial world gate. Although he was somewhat weak, his essence, chi, and soul were too vigorous. He was like a huge furnace that was burning in the outer world. His eyes flashed with lightning. He issued a warning, but in truth, he still had some trepidation in his heart. Earlier, when the aura of the ancient celestial emperors appeared, they were all shocked. They really didn't know if the celestial court had any ultimate protection. They originally wanted to use the two-realm battlefield to bring Su Yin to the celestial world. In the end, things didn't go as they wished. They lost too badly. The prehistoric big brother's eyes flashed with cold lightning. He said, "Do you have the intention to stop the dark calamity?" Hearing this, the Daesong who rushed out from the celestial world gate coldly said, "You already know the answer. You already know the truth. Why ask so much? Don't put a big hat on our heads. We have no obligation to help you stop the dark calamity." The prehistoric big brother's aura became colder and colder. In the end, he chose to attack. In an instant, the outer world rumbled. Everything became blurry and nothing could be seen clearly. No one expected the prehistoric big brother to directly attack. There was nothing to say. The experts from the celestial world didn't really want to stop the dark calamity. They were only here for the celestial court, courting death. This Daesong's aura became stronger at lightning speed. This was a peak existence, extremely majestic. He came from a Xian people's camp. In an instant, he erupted with his strongest foundation. Moreover, he carried a cauldron and attacked the prehistoric big brother. A terrifying battle was about to break out. The whole world was in an uproar. The scene was quite unreal. Just as the Daesong who stepped out from the celestial world gate was about to attack the prehistoric big brother, the whole world was covered in blood. The order of heaven and earth was burning. An incomparably tragic aura spread continuously. A mournful voice exploded. This Daesong who attacked the prehistoric big brother was howling in fear because he didn't see clearly at all. In the next moment, he felt a chill from head to toe. What appeared in the eyes of the world was an inconceivable scene. This extremely terrifying existence's head was directly shattered by the prehistoric big brother's slap. Moreover, his body was also shattered into two pieces. What was this? Killing the Daesong was like killing a chicken. It was simple and violent. One slap was enough to shatter his body. The Daesong of the Xian people screamed miserably. He was filled with despair and fear. What kind of existence did he encounter exactly? Could it be an expert on the same level as the immortal martial king? This world was suppressed by the environment. Strictly speaking, such an existence shouldn't exist here. Heavens, a terrifying hegemon was killed just like that. Am I dreaming? What level of expert is the protector of the celestial court exactly? A violent storm was stirred up in the celestial realm. Countless experts screamed in fear as their eyes turned sluggish. The scene was so shocking that it was as if thunder from the 9 heavens had exploded in their hearts. Countless people felt their hair stand on end. Nobody expected the prehistoric big brother to be so terrifying. Killing the Daesong was as easy as killing a little chicken. This was enough to show how powerful the prehistoric big brother was. He was a hegemon who could devour the heavens. This Daesong didn't even have a chance to struggle and directly exploded into a beam of blood light. Bastard! The immortal martial king was enraged. He wanted to stop it, but it was already too late. He also didn't expect the prehistoric big brother to be so decisive, killing a Daesong with just a raise of his hand. So it's you. The Sky Tyrant Lord's expression was gloomy. He sensed a trace of the world extinguishing halberd's aura. Maybe the one who destroyed the decree of the celestial realm was also him. They really didn't expect that this person would directly stand out. The prehistoric Big Brother's hair was disheveled. His figure was tall and majestic as he stood in the outer world. Daesung's corpse lay beneath his feet. Dong, dong, dong. The prehistoric Big Brother closed in on the celestial realm gate. Step by step, his aura became more and more shocking. His entire body emitted a terrifying, killing intent that covered the entire outer world. Moreover, it was pressing down on the celestial realm gate. What a terrifying and ancient expert! The expressions of the group of kings changed. Even with the celestial realm gate isolating his aura, he was still like a demon king that wanted to destroy the world. His killing intent was boundless and bone-chilling, so cold that it wanted to freeze their flesh shells. Without a doubt, this was an extremely terrifying existence. It was very difficult to measure his actual combat strength. It exceeded the limits of the Saint Realm and was a major character in the Celestial Realm. Let me do it. The immortal Martial King's heart was bleeding. A Daesung of his race had died. He didn't even have a chance to save him. Daesung was a cornerstone of the Emperor race. Yet he died under the prehistoric Big Brother's palm, just like that. Even his corpse and bones exploded, no longer existing. Hong Long. The 5-element rings floating behind the immortal Martial King started to spin. Each divine ring was so bright that it towered into the sky. It radiated a blazing light, exuding an incomparable Tao energy. Each divine ring seemed to correspond to a complete great Tao. It was filled with the aura of the heavens, encompassing the entire world, vast and boundless. This was very terrifying and ridiculous, but it was also enough to show how heaven-defying the 5-element rings were. The 5 divine rings corresponded to the 5 universes. The boundless great Tao energy circulated, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as it suppressed the prehistoric Big Brother. From this moment onwards, the vast outer world turned dark. The 5 universes rumbled as they spun, blotting out the sky and covering the sun. They were all enveloped by the prehistoric Big Brother's figure. What a terrifying treasure! What kind of existence was able to refine it? How strong is the sea-stabilizing divine needle of the celestial court exactly? Facing the celestial realm gate alone, isn't he afraid of being suppressed? The entire world was shaken. The 5 divine rings had already rushed out of the celestial realm gate, rushing towards the prehistoric Big Brother. It was also at this moment that an extremely terrifying fluctuation erupted. The prehistoric Big Brother, whose figure was even more majestic than the universe, finally awakened layer by layer and let out a thunderous roar. The stars exploded, transforming into a meteor shower that bombarded the heavens and earth. The roar was like thunder, surging and rippling, engulfing the peak of the heavens. The aura was too terrifying, sweeping through the sky. The projections of the 5 universes trembled as if they were about to explode. The prehistoric Big Brother erupted. His aura was even more terrifying than the demon lord's. It carried boundless might, carrying a great might that could pierce through the long river of time. It looked down on the world, overlooking the celestial realm gate. Waves of roars rang out. A terrifying great change occurred in the outer world. The Daozu in the entire world trembled as they looked towards the heavens, towards the outer world. They couldn't see clearly at all. They didn't know how strong the prehistoric Big Brother was, but the aura he emitted was even more serious than world destruction. The divine rings that descended one after another were all sent flying by the power of his flesh shell. The 5-element rings were all defeated, unable to suppress the prehistoric Big Brother at all. Instead, it stimulated his ancient aura, awakening from his decline. His aura was incomparably terrifying. He's coming up. Luan Tianwang was alarmed. He suddenly saw the reincarnation of an immortal king, emitting an incomparably blazing ancient aura as he rushed towards the celestial realm gate. Chapter 1788. Blazing majesty, unparalleled aura. His entire body emitted a light that could split the heavens and earth. The aura of the prehistoric Big Brother was too terrifying. His eyes were even more dazzling than the blazing sun, emitting an intense, killing intent. He was like a war god that had broken free from his shackles, his roar shaking the entire outer world. The celestial world gate started to rumble. It was like endless lightning bolts were pressing down on their hearts. Luo and Tianwang and the others were incomparably terrified. They felt like their bodies were about to explode. There was no need to doubt. If it wasn't for the protection of the celestial world gate, their bodies would have been directly crushed by his roar. This was a terrifying devil lord. His killing intent towered up the heavens. He could easily destroy the heavens and earth, slaughtering all the experts in the celestial world gate. Quickly block him. Inside the celestial world gate, the younger generation experts all felt their hair standing on end. This was simply like a primordial beast erupting. Step by step, he closed in on the celestial world gate, his aura causing the gate to rumble and shake. Even a 5-element ring couldn't suppress him. How strong is this person exactly? Luo Tianwang was filled with fear. One after another, the heavily injured nobles felt their guts being torn apart. They weren't shocked by the strength of the prehistoric Big Brother, but by the energy fluctuations that originated from his body. He was able to shake the celestial world gate. No matter how strong the Sky Tyrant Lord and the immortal Martial King were, they couldn't suppress the prehistoric Big Brother. He was really going to kill his way over. During this process, the aura of the celestial world gate grew more and more majestic. The previously silent imprints also started to glow, wanting to revive once more. At the same time, a vast immortal might gushed forth. This was extremely terrifying and ridiculous. This was the celestial world gate. It represented the will of the celestial world. It couldn't be blasphemed or violated. The Sky Tyrant Lord and the immortal Martial King had heavy expressions. They chose to join forces to revive the celestial world gate, wanting to suppress the prehistoric Big Brother. However, just as the celestial world gate was about to revive to its strongest state, this ancient gate started to tremble. This was the aura of the prehistoric Big Brother awakening. Of course, it wasn't his aura that completely shook the celestial world gate. Rather, it was the silhouette of a certain person within his aura that contained a terrifying influence, causing the imprints of the celestial world gate to fall silent once more. Not good. The immortal Martial King's expression greatly changed. This person was related to the ancient celestial emperors. How could this be? The young man was scared to death. The gate to the immortal realm had failed once again. Just how powerful was the ancient celestial emperors? As a result, the experts who had left behind defensive forces at the celestial world gate were unwilling to face it. Boom! The prehistoric Big Brother was majestic and imposing. Step by step, he closed in. His bronze-colored body was filled with a terrifying demonic nature and shocking killing intent. Finally, he punched out. His fist was vast and boundless, containing endless heavenly might. This was an unrivaled fist imprint. It broke through everything and smashed toward the celestial world gate. It was powerful and unrivaled. In fact, if it weren't for the Gate of Immortality's powerful force suppressing the aura emitted by the fist, this fist would have been enough to cause a terrible disaster in the Gate of Immortality. Who knew how many experts would have died? But even so, the fist was unparalleled. It was like a dormant, immortal king had come back to life, and it surged with forbidden order. Along the way, it destroyed the bodies of heavily injured nobles one after another. Screams rang out continuously. The Gate of Immortality was stained with blood. This was one after another nobles. They were already heavily injured before, and now, facing the fist imprint of the prehistoric Big Brother, they couldn't help but tremble. Their bodies were torn apart, and they collapsed into balls of blood. In an instant, 3 nobles died. The Gate of Immortality was dyed red with blood. Luo Tianwang was terrified. If he wasn't standing beside the Sky Tyrant Lord, he wouldn't have survived. The prehistoric Big Brother's fist wasn't aimed at the Sky Tyrant Lord, but at King Immortal Marshall, who broke the rules earlier. Big Brother is so strong. Su Yan's blood was boiling. Was this the prehistoric Big Brother's invincible strength? The immortal heavenly domain was completely silent. Countless fanatical gazes were focused on the prehistoric Big Brother. He was attacking the supreme gate of immortality, and the majestic stone gate was shaking. How deep was the waters of the celestial court? Were there other experts? Kill! King Immortal Marshall roared. He knew that he had encountered an unfathomable enemy. He used all his strength to resist the prehistoric Big Brother's attack. He didn't believe that the prehistoric Big Brother could kill him with just a single fist. King Immortal Marshall's strength was undeniable. He was famous in the immortal world. His martial aura was vast and majestic, like a battle martial emperor. His aura was terrifying, and in his fully recovered state, he could shatter the sea of stars. Unfortunately, he encountered the prehistoric Big Brother. The bronze fist imprint was immortal and indestructible. The instant it came crashing down, King Immortal Marshall's soul trembled. His sea of consciousness was about to explode. Suddenly, he seemed to see an immortal king standing in the middle of a terrifying heaven and earth. He punched out with a peerless fist, wanting to destroy him and his everything. King Immortal Marshall was terrified. Who was this person? He seemed to have seen an immortal king erupting with power. Could it be that this person had already touched upon the immortal king realm? The prehistoric Big Brother intentionally concealed himself. Even the Sky Tyrant Lord couldn't see his condition clearly. If he knew that this body was merely the body of an immortal king, he wouldn't be so afraid. Fresh blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the immortal gate red. One of the arms of the immortal Marshall King exploded, and even half of his terrifying body was destroyed. Blood and bone fragments gushed out, causing the entire world outside the immortal realms to be filled with a bloody light. The terrifying life form was about to die, forming a phenomenon of doomsday. How can this be? The young people in the immortal gate were all scared silly. This was King Immortal Marshall. Even with his full strength, he couldn't withstand a single strike, and his body was damaged. What kind of combat prowess was this? Was this a hegemon that could swallow the entire universe? In any case, King Immortal Marshall suffered heavy injuries. However, the damage to his body couldn't be compared to the suppression of his soul. He was on the verge of death, filled with agony and despair. He saw an indomitable, immortal king looking down on the past, present, and future. Even someone as powerful as him could only tremble in fear as he screamed, "Quickly call for reinforcements! Call for reinforcements! Call for reinforcements!" He felt that he was about to explode. The prehistoric Big Brother wanted to kill him. This was the price for interfering in the battlefield. In truth, there was no need for him to shout. A thunderous roar rang out, bringing with it a supreme might that gushed towards the immortal gate, pressuring the outer world, covering the entire undying heavenly domain. The Sky Tyrant Lord's heart trembled. A powerful existence from the immortal world descended to the lower world. As the supreme might surged, a figure rose up from the ground, standing at the end of time and space. He sat in the primal chaos, filled with supreme immortal might. A pair of cold eyes gradually opened, emitting terrifying laws and the light of heavenly tribulation. The Wheel Tyrant Lord almost knelt on the ground. This was definitely an extremely terrifying existence, making a move from an extremely far distance to obstruct the prehistoric Big Brother. The moment he made his move, he used a powerful technique. Boundless primal chaos lightning rained down in unison, raining down in layers and layers. It was like the origin energy of the immortal world, terrifying and terrifying, forming a vast sea of primal chaos lightning. Rumble. The heavens and earth trembled as countless cracks formed in the outer world. As the primal chaos lightning raged, a terrifying giant hand also appeared, suppressing the prehistoric Big Brother. The prehistoric Big Brother was enraged. His disheveled hair fluttered in the wind as his aura surged. The heavens and earth were torn apart like a piece of paper, completely destroyed. He was still as powerful and tyrannical as before. With a punch, the boundless primal chaos lightning was sent flying back. An incomparable fist imprint smashed onto the primal chaos giant hand. Rumble. The prehistoric Big Brother's might was unparalleled, like a supreme immortal. His fist imprint emitted the light of reincarnation, as if the door to the world of reincarnation had been opened. Boundless heaven punishing chi rained down, forcibly destroying the primal chaos giant hand. Su Yin and the others felt their blood boiling. Was Big Brother going to be invincible? He suppressed the celestial martial king, and now he directly destroyed the primal chaos giant hand when facing a major character from the lower world. The source of primal chaos also collapsed, but they couldn't see the prehistoric Big Brother's true body. This was truly shocking. This wasn't the prehistoric Big Brother's true body, but in reality, it was a giant hand that was pressing down. It originally wanted to suppress the prehistoric Big Brother, but in the end, it destroyed his arm instead. To an expert of that level, the destruction of his arm was definitely a huge blow to his foundation. He would need countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures to recover. Roar! A low roar exploded out, originating from the owner of the primal chaos giant hand. He didn't expect that he would be so heavily injured the moment he made his move. His true body was too far away from the gate of the immortal realm. He couldn't cross over in a short period of time. Similarly, he also sent out a warning, shocking the Sky Tyrant Lord and the others. Close the gate of the immortal realm. The Sky Tyrant Lord's forehead flashed with ancient nobility, activating the gate of the immortal realm, preventing the prehistoric Big Brother from barging in. Bzzz. Numerous ancient characters appeared on the stone gate. With a rumbling sound, they ignited, accompanied by the sound of chanting scriptures. This blazing gate didn't launch an attack. Instead, it was gradually closing up. The immortal martial king was heavily injured. Only half of his body was left, exuding an incomparably miserable light. His blood-stained face was also reflected on the gate of the immortal martial king. He roared in anger, "I interfered with the battle. Now that you have struck me once, I'll let bygones be bygones." After speaking, the immortal martial king's mournful eyes stared at Su Yan. He suddenly spoke in a cold voice. "Right now, I'm giving you a final warning. If you don't take the initiative to come to the immortal realm, this world will be completely annihilated by the calamity of darkness. Not even a blade of grass will survive." Su Yan's eyes flashed with a cold light. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His entire person seemed to be under boundless pressure, causing him to feel somewhat suffocated. He forcefully suppressed the flames of anger in his heart. His body burned with the flames of battle, causing the heavens and earth to collapse. Even the starry space was vaporized into a black hole. Everyone in the immortal martial king's world was dumbfounded. Countless gazes landed on Su Yan. All of them were silent. Bullsh *T. Bao Kai roared. He was truly enraged, using the lives of the entire universe to threaten Su Yan. This was truly despicable to the extreme. Some people felt that the immortal martial king had gone mad. Even the young elites in the gate of the immortal realm were all dumbfounded. The majestic king of an emperor race actually held the lives and deaths of countless lives in his hands to threaten a young man. However, there were people who coldly laughed. The lower world was a wasteland, a land of abandonment. Whether it existed or not, what difference did it make to them? Don't doubt my words. You will only have one chance. If you don't come, this world will be completely annihilated. Not a single living being will survive, including you. The immortal martial king coldly spoke. Time was limited. Unless there was no other choice, he didn't want to force Su Yan. Now, he could only choose the last resort. Things are getting more and more overboard. At the same time, in the Xianhuang universe, the mysterious skeleton was awakened. Chapter 1789. Su Yan's blood boiled as thick lightning bolts shot out from his pores, tearing through the void and shooting up to the peak of the heavens. He transformed into a raging god of war, standing between the heavens and the earth. His chest heaved up and down with thunderous roars. He was truly enraged, a rage that he had never felt before. It stimulated his flesh and blood to the point that he could blast open the gates of the sage realm at any time. Shameless, Dao Shuyi was enraged, wanting to kill Su Yin just because of some doubts, and even using such despicable means to force Su Yin into a dilemma. One had to admit that this move of the immortal martial king was too ruthless, directly forcing Su Yin into a corner. At the same time, the storm in the undying heavenly region continued. The various worlds could no longer remain calm. Many Daozu were enraged. What do they take the undying heavenly region for? A bargaining chip that could be slaughtered at any time, a wasteland that could be controlled at any time. Originally, they treated the immortal world as their savior, treating them with absolute respect. But now, it seemed like the immortal world was also a great evil. In order to capture a single person, they didn't hesitate to make such a cruel statement. The entire world was filled with panic. Without a doubt, the immortal world now had no way to deal with Su Yan. Even if the younger generation couldn't win against him, the older generation would still be supported by the prehistoric elder brother. Now, in order to capture Su Yan, they had to stop resisting the calamity of darkness. There were also some who felt that the immortal world wouldn't dare to do so. After all, they were just talking about it. They wouldn't take the lives of an entire universe as a joke. Who would have thought that an indescribable aura would spread out, instantly enveloping the entire undying heavenly region? In this short period of time, the undying heavenly region was plunged into boundless darkness. It could be said that one couldn't even see one's 5 fingers if one stretched out one's hand. It was also like an endless calamity of darkness, filling up the hearts of everyone in this short period of time. No! Countless living beings screamed in fear as they trembled. The despair that had disappeared from their hearts surged up once again, and this time it was countless times more intense than the previous time. Boom! A loud explosion rang out as the silent source of darkness erupted. In a short period of time, tens of continents crumbled as the source of endless terror leaked out. Great provinces collapsed, darkness covering the sun. Miserable cries sounded without end. It was a scene even more tragic than purgatory in a mortal world. A large number of lives died miserably. Their flesh and blood silently withered, turning into withered bones that filled the sky and piled up on the ground. Woo-woo! Chilly winds howled, gods wept, and ghosts wept. The sealed source of destruction was finally breached, and the Hell Gate was opened once again. It was like an unparalleled demon that had come back to life, wanting to devour the entire undying heavenly domain. This tragic event touched the hearts of everyone. Dozens of great provinces disintegrated, and destructive tides surged, shaking the oceans of the 4 seas. The great stars that covered the sky in the universe sank down in unison, transforming into crippled star skeletons. Bastards! How dare you do this? How dare you? There were also roars that erupted. The sword sect primogenitor was furious, but he also felt a chill run down his back. That was because he had moved at least hundreds of millions of living beings away from the great provinces that were connected to the darkness, dealing with the terrible events that would follow in the worst possible way. However, he felt that the probability of the worst-case scenario happening was very slim. He really didn't expect it to happen again. The entire world of Daozu was filled with despair. His little life was completely in the hands of someone else. Was there still a way out? Was there really still a way out? The darkness disaster erupted once again, and dozens of great provinces exploded. Those who were observant noticed that the power of the Hell Gate was still there, and it hadn't completely relaxed. They still had hope. Roar! Su Yan roared, filled with grief and indignation. His entire body erupted with divine power, and he couldn't wait to tear open the sky and fight, and kill the Sky Tyrant Lord and the others. What main force against the darkness disaster? Bullshit. Hee hee. Ha ha ha. King Immortal Marshall's body glowed, and in the Hell Gate, he revealed the cruelest smile. You only have one day to think about it. Of course, in this one day, how many lives will be slaughtered by the power of the darkness? It has nothing to do with me. After one day, there will be no room for negotiation. Sky Tyrant Lord followed up. Using one person's life in exchange for the lives of the entire universe. This is a good deal, isn't it? Despicable, shameless to the extreme. Fairy Zixia roared. What main force against the darkness disaster? I think you guys are even worse than the darkness disaster. Shameful. I feel ashamed for you. You guys have no bottom line. You don't deserve to be called human. Inside the Hellgate, a group of big shots had cold expressions. Some of the younger ones couldn't take it anymore, and they felt a little uncomfortable. They really wanted to shout that the Hellgate was the main force against the darkness disaster. They didn't think that things would develop to this point, and they also didn't think that King Immortal Marshall and Sky Tyrant Lord would be so ruthless, allowing the darkness disaster to wreak havoc. One must know that the more lives the darkness disaster devoured, the stronger the battalion would be. King Immortal Marshall and Sky Tyrant Lord couldn't not know, and since they did so, it was enough to prove that Su Yan's existence was very valuable. Even the monarch races were willing to lower their faces. Su Yan stood in place, his eyes red. He roared, in a strong desire he had never felt before. He wanted to have power, to have the power to defeat the monarch races of the Hellgate. His eyes emitted endless anger, and his body burned as if he had turned into the most terrifying god of war. His whole body was filled with endless heaven's burial aura, resonating with the vast environment of the world. His heart was filled with anger, but he couldn't vent it. Su Yan, calm down. It's not the time for despair yet. East Demon's face changed. He was really worried that Su Yan would do something stupid. Going to the Hellgate was a path of death, and there was no way he could survive. His future was bound to be tragic. The prehistoric big brother returned from the outer world, and the old leader and the others' faces sank. Big brother's condition didn't look too good. He looked very old, and there were some cracks on his bronze body. Dao Shui's heart sank. After all, this body was, strictly speaking, a body abandoned by the prehistoric big brother. To an expert, it was extremely difficult to rebirth a body from the golden era. This also showed how strong the prehistoric big brother was. Once he used too much strength in his abandoned body, it would be a great threat to himself. A bunch of lunatics. Dao Shui's cold eyes looked at the Hellgate. He didn't expect the two monarch races to do such a crazy thing. If the darkness disaster continued to spread, the fate of the immortal heavenly domain would be irreversible. At the same time, the Black Origin universe would soon be threatened. What kind of enemy did the Celestial Court's billions of troops encounter? Was it so difficult for them to return? According to Dao Shui's understanding of the experts who led the expedition, if the Black Origin universe encountered a great crisis, no matter what happened, they would return as soon as possible. Now it seemed that the problem was much more serious than expected. Now that there was no external force to rely on, they had to find a way to save themselves. Fairy, are we just going to watch as the disaster once again turns into a tragedy for the human world? The ancestor of the Immortal Clan finally couldn't hold back and stood up. This old golden body had a lot of power, but it still flowed with terrifying heavenly might. He was one of the top experts in the world. What do you want to say? Dao Shui glanced at him. The ancestor of the Immortal Clan looked at the prehistoric big brother. With his strength, couldn't he temporarily stop the darkness eruption? The dark matter is the origin energy of the dark world. It can't be resisted by humans. Only the universe can. Dao Shui's cold voice interrupted his fantasy. Even if the prehistoric big brother was restored to his strongest state, he couldn't turn the tide by himself. The celestial great worlds were destroyed. They couldn't form a new environmental order to resist the invasion of the dark origin. Are you just going to stand by and do nothing? Another Daozu stood up and said in a low voice, If the lips are gone, the teeth will be cold. No one can protect themselves. If you have something to say, just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush. Dao Shui responded. This is what the fairy asked me to say. Another jumped out and said in a low voice, the immortal world has already resisted the dark calamity. If it weren't for the next series of events, our world wouldn't have been hurt a second time. What do you mean? The old leader was shocked and angry. The immortal world blamed the celestial court. What happened? Who was it that issued the challenge first? Who was it that activated the two-realm battlefield? Who was it that shamelessly interfered in the battle? From the very beginning, it was the immortal dimension that was looking for trouble. Yet all of you say it was because of us? Do you want the celestial court to be cowards? The old leader was furious. The immortal world had been making things difficult for her and targeting the celestial court. They were afraid of the aura of the ancient celestial emperors. In the end, they changed their target to Su Yan. Many people nodded. That's right. The immortal world had been targeting the celestial court from the start, especially Su Yan. What's the point of saying all this now? The only thing that can save us now is the immortal world. Someone said secretly. His real body didn't come out, but his primordial spirit swept over. He shouted, without the protection of the immortal world's power, our world will become a dead zone. Countless creatures will die. You're still putting your hopes on the immortal world? East Demon said angrily. Who's the evil one? Stop dreaming. If the immortal world really wanted to help, the dozens of prefectures wouldn't have collapsed just now, and they wouldn't have used the lives of the entire universe as a bargaining chip. I'll say one more thing, the Sky Tyrant Lord suddenly said. If you're willing to come to the immortal world, my race will protect this world for 100 years. I can swear on my true fate. His words were grand and spread throughout the universe, exploding in the ears of billions of creatures. 100 years was a short time, but it opened a door of hope for the dark world. The entire universe was no longer peaceful. Who would want to die for no reason? No one. Even the Sky Tyrant Lord spoke again. My race will guide a group of the strongest geniuses of this world to the immortal world. If there's a chance, there's also hope that they can enter the Emperor clan to further their studies. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire world was in an uproar. Some geniuses were really excited. There was hope to further their studies in the immortal world. They couldn't forget that the young experts of the immortal world used the wasteland to evaluate their world. The environment of the immortal world must be very scary. If they were lucky enough to enter the immortal world, they might be able to change their lives and become an expert like the Sky Tyrant Lord. Su Yan, why aren't you saying anything? Someone shouted and transmitted a message secretly. The Yuan spirit fluctuation was very violent, shaking the universe. Finally, there were cultivators in the undying heavenly domain who shouted what many wanted to say. As long as Su Yan went to the immortal world and left with the Sky Tyrant Lord, this world would have hope of surviving. How do you expect him to answer? How do you expect him to speak? Yin Emperor glared. One person's life in exchange for the lives of the entire universe. Isn't it worth it? The powerhouse who was secretly transmitting his voice spoke again. What else is there to hesitate about? Moreover, this is a great achievement that will go down in history. The entire universe will remember him. Su Yan, go in peace. I promise that after you leave, I'll gather the experts of the various great sects to build a stone statue of your true body. Billions of creatures will offer incense to you. Chapter 1790. All eyes were on Su Yan. He was strong, invincible, and brilliant. Even the experts of the undying celestial domain had to admit that Su Yan's potential was heaven-defying. Once he became a Daozu, he would be incredible. And now, such an invincible young expert was facing a difficult decision. Some were sneering, some were watching coldly, some were exasperated, and some felt that they shouldn't submit to the immortal world. Otherwise, the immortal world would do whatever they wanted to them. Many sighed. A universe without an invincible expert was destined to be a sad place. Su Yan remained silent from the beginning. His eyes were fixed on the undying celestial domain. His fists were clenched tightly as he stared at Dali. Why aren't you replying? The whole world is waiting. To be frank, our lives are in your hands. The powerhouse who was secretly transmitting his voice shouted coldly, Suyin, say something. Are you going or not? In any case, we don't have the strength to force you. But for the sake of the world, there might be a chance in 100 years. Maybe you won't die in the immortal world. Old bastard, can you shut up? Bao Cai's eyes were red with anger. Do you expect the immortal world to prolong your lives after 100 years? We're not asking you to die. You're speaking so smoothly. Don't use the lives of the entire universe to force my brother. If we don't place our hopes on the immortal world, do we place our hopes on the celestial court? The expert sneered. The celestial court doesn't belong to our world. What does our world have to do with you? You don't care, but how do you expect us to deal with the upcoming calamity? Coward, come out and speak if you dare. The ancient celestial emperors have protected our world for millions of years. How can we not hear your praises? Our celestial court doesn't belong to the undying celestial domain. But for so many years, who was the one who sealed the calamity? Who was the one who protected you all? Don't you have any conscience? How can you say such ugly words now? His words were like a bolt of lightning that shook the entire place. The world would never forget the words of King Lun praising the ancient celestial emperors. The celestial court was a great benefactor to this world. This was a fact that could not be changed. Now, the most outstanding young expert of the celestial court had to go to the immortal world alone to throw away his life. This was chilling. That matter hasn't been thoroughly investigated yet. Who can say for sure? The cultivator who was secretly transmitting his voice spoke again. However, this time, it triggered a thunderous fury. Dao Shuyi's beautiful eyes emitted a terrifying radiance that illuminated the starry sky of the universe. Following the waves of primordial spirit, it swept towards the distant world. The mysterious sky sex ancestor's face turned ugly. He hadn't expected to be locked down. So if it's you. The old leader was furious and wanted to kill him first. The mysterious sky sex ancestor quickly retreated. His control over the power of heaven and earth was unpredictable. It would be extremely difficult for experts of the same generation to stop him. He didn't forget to snort coldly. Yes, I said those words, but I said the truth. I said what no one else in the world dared to say. Using Su Yan's life to exchange for the lives of the entire universe is worth it. My brother has no obligation to die for you. Bao Cai was furious. Actually, there was something he hadn't said. Even if they really had to go, and everyone from the celestial court would go, they would have to kill them all before going. But the immortal world only wants Su Yan. What can we do? The mysterious sky sex ancestor said angrily. If they want me to go, I won't even frown. Even if it's my own children, I won't hesitate. My own life is small. Saving the world is a great achievement. Well said. You spoke on my mind. The Lord of the Underworld said coldly. Su Yan, you provoked the immortal world. You shouldn't let us be punished. You really shouldn't. Could it be that you want everyone in the world to wait for death? The Xian people's ancestor nodded. If you're afraid of death, we can negotiate with the immortal world to let you live. In any case, the situation is serious. The immortal world doesn't give us much time. You have to give us a clear answer. Tai Bao Cai roared angrily. This group of old bastards couldn't wait for Su Yan to die. Their words caused a huge commotion in the undying celestial domain. 100 years was too important. Perhaps there would be a turn for the better. As long as Su Yan agreed to go to the immortal world, everything would be fine. But he still hadn't said anything. What kind of attitude was this? Many people were annoyed. Could it be that Su Yan was really going to ignore them and watch them die? Actually, the Sky Tyrant Lord and the Celestial Martial King were worried that Su Yan wouldn't dare to stand out. Once the Black Calamity invaded, it wouldn't be long before the various factions of the immortal world learned of what was happening here. Damn it! At that time, they would lose everything. Of course, the main reason was that Su Yan killed Xian Yu and the genius of the Immortal Cave. This matter was too big. Once the news spread to the Xian people, there might be some terrifying existence protecting them and giving them cultivation resources. One had to know that the great war of immortals and demons was about to start. The fate of the two universes was at stake. Once such a huge matter was involved, all grudges would have to be put aside and prepare for the great war of immortals and demons. What should we do? Yin Emperor looked at Dao Shui. Big Brother said that the younger generation should be left to the younger generation. But now, they couldn't control the killing intent in their hearts. They could fight to the death with the Xian people's ancestor and the others. Don't panic, Dao Shui said in a low voice. Try to stall for time. East Demon was startled. Could there be a turning point? He knew that the two strongest guardians of the Celestial Court were Big Brother and Dao Shui. But he didn't know about the existence of the mysterious skeleton. The mysterious skeleton used its great power to transmit a message to them, telling them to stall for time and wait for a turning point. In the deep world that was filled with a strong aura of destruction, a grand chanting of scriptures was suddenly transmitted. It was as if it resounded in the long river of the heavens, deafening everyone. The chanting was deep and majestic. In the depths of the deep world, it was abnormal. Terrifying sword lights rushed up, and great Tao runes flashed one after another. It was as if the world was splitting apart, and all kinds of violent energy flowed out. The long river of time appeared, and the chanting of scriptures sounded. It was as if the realm lord was roaring, the immortal king was roaring, and the supreme monarch was descending to the world. This aura and majesty was really abnormal to the extreme. In the state, the deep world welcomed a huge change. There were also waves of ancient sacrificial chanting that shook the long river of time and space. Boom! In the end, the mysterious skeleton became stronger. Its bones turned into cosmic swords, splitting time and space, and penetrating into another world. The aura it emitted became more and more shocking. If one observed carefully, they would discover that a mysterious path had been carved out. It was formed from endless law patterns, and it caused a great disturbance in the realm wall on the other side. However, it was also extremely difficult to completely break through. One had to know that the source was the celestial world. Apart from going to the celestial world through the celestial world gate, all other paths were sealed. It was impossible to continue opening. I never thought that there would be a day when I would ask for help from the celestial world. It's a little laughable. The mysterious skeleton sighed. An ancient stone token flew out from the Tao platform it occupied. The instant it erupted, the indestructible realm wall of the source resonated with it, gushing out billions of auspicious auras. For a time, it was resplendent and overflowing. The celestial world was vast and boundless. The area of a single world was comparable to a great universe. There were more than billions of ancient worlds in the celestial world. There were also many famous regions in the celestial world. For example, King City was one of the most powerful ancient cities in the celestial world. It was also the place where the celestial world's kings were conferred. Boom! The grand ancient city rumbled violently, alarming many great figures in the city. King City was massive, the entire city crammed with ancient worlds. The sun, moon, and stars that filled the sky were like dust, too insignificant. One could well imagine just how large this city was. At the peak of King City, the ancient sea of stars rotated. Chaotic energy pervaded the air, forbidden energy curling about. It could be called a life dangerland. What is that? The experts in the city were alarmed. At the peak of King City, the heavens were laid out horizontally. Forbidden energy flowed, making all of the cultivators in the city suffocate. Strictly speaking, this type of energy body was too ridiculous. When a saint encountered it, they were directly turned to ashes. Within the surging forbidden energy, a blurry figure appeared. It was like a creature sleeping in the ancient era that began to recover its life force. However, his recovery speed was just too fast. The terrifying body burned fiercely, the sky covering forbidden light trembling, about to completely shatter. At the same time, the entire King City became quiet, all of the experts trembling while suffocating. If not for this person sitting in the Forbidden Land, the energy fluctuations produced by the short period of recovery would have produced extremely terrifying destructive force. He got up. Heaven and earth trembled, the cosmos about to explode. It was extremely horrifying. He left King's City with almost a single step, appearing before an immortal realm wall. His eyes also landed on a stone token. His expression suddenly changed, saying with a trembling voice, "Emperor Token." No matter how terrifying and unmatched he was, he directly bowed down, kowtowing towards the Emperor Token. His expression was dignified and serious, maintaining absolute respect. If outsiders saw this scene, they might be scared half to death. Who was he? He was King City's Tao protector, his status extraordinary. King City was a land of kings. As King City's Tao protector, his status really was ridiculously powerful. Immortal Realm was an existence that would tremble with a stomp of their feet. His actions weren't worth laughing at either. This was absolute respect towards the expert who wielded the Emperor Token. Even if the expert wielding the Emperor Token was an immortal Tao Realm cultivator, he would still bow down and show great respect. In Immortal Realm, once an Emperor Token appeared, heaven and earth would respect it. Emperor Token, this was unmatched glory and glory. Sometimes, it was even more respected than Emperor-level experts. Even Emperor's horoscope experts had to pay their respects to it. It represented the greatest achievement in the celestial world. Since Immortal Realm's existence, the number of Emperor tokens that were released was extremely few. Every time an Emperor token appeared, it needed the acknowledgement of Immortal Realm's core will. Strictly speaking, this type of person could directly become an emperor. What audacity! When he clashed with the Emperor token, he obtained a series of information. His expression changed in anger, releasing thunderous rage, making the entire ancient realm tremble. Countless creatures couldn't help but kneel on the ground, especially a few great cultivators nearby. Their bodies almost exploded. It was to the extent where he almost shed tears of joy. He obtained information from the Celestial Court. The power established by that legendary person. Who was that person? Forget about one Emperor token. Even 10 couldn't compare to his great achievements. Even though it was just a flash in the pan, it left behind an incomparably terrifying glory and legend. How long? King City's Tao protector rushed into the sky, his expression ice-cold to the extreme. King City was in an uproar. What was going on? The Tao protector left, filled with murderous intent, crossing one ancient realm after another. What was he going to do? Some people felt that Immortal Realm was going to change. Thinking back to the chaos in Immortal Realm, perhaps the Tao protector coming out of seclusion was related to this matter. At Immortal Heavenly Domain, the Sky Tyrant Lord and Immortal Martial King couldn't wait any longer, reminding them that there wasn't much time left. A day was about to end. Suyin, why aren't you saying anything? How long are you going to wait? The Lord of Hell shouted coldly. You are the supreme of the monarch rankings. You have to take responsibility. What's the point of living alone? Don't implicate us. Can you just watch billions of creatures die because of you? Immortal Heavenly Domain's people were about to explode. No one wanted to die. Time was running out. Time is running out. The Sky Tyrant Lord reminded further. They were also anxious and had a bad premonition. Let me go. Su Yin suddenly spoke. The entire world was in an uproar. Many people were cheering they could live on. Do you have conditions? The Sky Tyrant Lord's expression sank. At this point, is there any meaning in bargaining? I can go to the immortal world, but I have some unfulfilled wishes, Su Yin said in a low voice. As long as you agree, I can go. I won't turn back. I will never. Speak. Immortal Martial King asked. As long as Su Yan's conditions weren't too ridiculous, they could fulfill them. They had to bring Su Yin back within this period of time. Even if this matter was exposed, they were from monarch clans after all, they wouldn't suffer too much punishment. Junior wants to break through Daozu before I go, Su Yin said in a low voice. Are you dreaming? The Sky Tyrant Lord and Immortal Martial King's expressions sank. They wouldn't give Su Yin any time. Not even a day. I knew you guys wouldn't agree. Listen to me first. Su Yin smiled radiantly. He didn't care about the gazes of the entire world. His tone was resolute and decisive as he continued. I have some enemies that can only be eliminated after entering Daozu. Since you guys don't want to give me time, I will make them commit suicide. Commit suicide? The ancestor of the Mystic Sky sect turned ashen as his body trembled. His lungs felt like they were about to explode. What was Qin Wentian planning to do? Suddenly, he took a sharp turn and truly roared. Kill who? The Sky Tyrant Lord didn't hesitate. Let alone killing one or two. Even killing thousands or tens of thousands would satisfy him. In any case, the current situation was very difficult for them. They could still find the true, unrivaled genius of the Immortal Cave, but Su Yin might not participate in the battle, and the delay would be even longer. Even if the unrivaled genius of the Immortal Cave acted, it wouldn't be something they could do with just a sentence. The problems involved were extremely complicated. In any case, they had to bring someone away. Whether it was Su Yin or not wasn't important. They had to bring someone back to report. What was more important was that Xinyu died. Hence, Su Yin had to be brought away. Su Yin suddenly roared. Junior swears a blood oath. As long as they commit suicide and fulfill my wish, I will immediately head to the immortal world without any hesitation. Say it. The immortal Martial King was extremely solemn. Even if they had to cripple the Xian people of the lower world, it wasn't a big deal. Su Yan's request wasn't too overboard to them. They would do their best to satisfy and fulfill it. Grand Chapter. Chapter 1791. The Lord of the Underworld, the Odd Heaven sect's progenitor, and the Xian people's progenitor all had ashen expressions. They almost cursed out loud. This was too much. Not only them, but Daozu also had ugly expressions. They had once attacked the Celestial Court. Now that Su Yin had proposed such a condition, it was obvious that he wanted to kill them. My lord, don't believe his nonsense. He's just stalling for time. The Odd Heaven sect's progenitor's expression was extremely ugly. His heart was beating wildly, and he was truly flustered and exasperated. The Sky Tyrant Lord and Immortal Martial King both nodded. What was going on? He hurriedly said, I don't believe that he'll go to the immortal world obediently. He's definitely stalling for time. I've already sworn a blood oath. Isn't that enough? Su Yin was furious. He pointed at them and said, if the people of the immortal world don't believe me, then there's nothing I can do. In any case, I can't go to the immortal world. This is my bottom line. Also, I don't even want my life anymore. Would it kill me to fulfill some of my wishes? Bastard. The Odd Heaven sect's progenitor was about to explode. He let out a low roar. Su Yin was too ruthless. Even in death, he wanted to drag them down with him. The Sky Tyrant Lord was very direct. Say it. How many do you want to kill? His voice was exceptionally cruel and cold, without any emotion. His words shook the entire world. Who didn't know about the enmity between Su Yin and the underworld? He's the first. Su Yin pointed at the Odd Heaven sect's progenitor and said coldly, kill him first, and then we'll talk. Su Yin, you evil creature. The Odd Heaven sect's progenitor roared. He was so angry that his primordial spirit was trembling. It could be said that his eyes were about to split open, and his aura shook the entire continent. He had truly gone berserk. You old bastard, Bao Kai said disdainfully. I don't know who was the one who forced my brother to die just now. Didn't you say that individual lives were small and that dealing with the entire universe was the important thing? Now that it's your turn, why are you acting like a coward? Bastard, shouted the ancestor of the mysterious sky sect furiously. He said to the strong cultivators of the celestial world gate, don't believe him. Who knows how many people he wants to kill? He's just stalling for time. Don't worry. Su Yin smiled faintly. I don't want to kill many people, only 10 or 20. If you guys are a little faster, you won't need a few days. I think less than an incense stick's worth of time will be enough. As soon as these words were spoken, chaos broke out everywhere. Those experts who had grudges with the Celestial Court were enraged. There were also some who wanted to flee immediately. The undying celestial region was too dangerous now. Who knew what Su Yin would do next? Why are you still waiting for the safety of all life in the universe? Kill yourself immediately and fulfill one of my wishes. Su Yin said coldly. Let's begin. There's not much time left. Boom! A huge explosion occurred in outer space, causing the entire continent to tremble. The ancestor of the mysterious sky sect rushed into outer space, wanting to escape from the undying celestial region. He was truly frightened. He felt that Su Yin had gone mad and wanted to drag him down with him. Impudent! Stop right there. The celestial martial king and the sky tyrant lord were enraged. They hadn't expected the ancestor of the mysterious sky sect to flee. He didn't even look back as he fled. This scene caused everyone to fall silent. Those who wanted to be the first to see Su Yin leave sighed, who would be willing to throw their lives away. The ancestor of the mysterious sky sect who had just reprimanded Su Yin ran faster than a rabbit. However, Su Yin was still in the undying celestial region. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! Su Yin threw his head back and laughed, his long black hair fluttering in the wind. His laughter was so loud that it shook heaven and earth. He didn't even look at the ancestor of the mysterious sky sect who was fleeing into outer space. Don't you think it's funny? Old dog, why are you running? What a laughingstock! His words reverberated through the mountains and rivers, reaching the ears of billions of people. Countless people looked at Su Yin, who was still standing in the undying celestial region, then looked at the fleeing ancestor of the mysterious sky sect with complicated feelings. They couldn't say a single word. Even more people felt that the ancestor of the mysterious sky sect was too ridiculous. When it was his turn, he had directly fled, not caring about their lives at all. The ancestor of the Xian people's face was gloomy. He suddenly raised his hand and blocked the peak of the sky. His hand expanded infinitely, suppressing the vast outer space. Boom! The aura of the ancestor of the mysterious sky sect was extremely powerful and terrifying. He spread the Tao in the starry sky and controlled the sea of stars. He emitted an even stronger aura to resist the suppression of the ancestor of the Xian people. Come back! The ancestor of the Xian people roared. The immortal slaying sword on his back was suddenly unsheathed. A vast stream of sword light poured down, covering the ancestor of the mysterious sky sect. This caused the ancestor of the mysterious sky sect to be incomparably powerful and turbulent, blocking his path of retreat in all directions. What are you doing? The ancestor of the mysterious sky sect was furious. Could it be that they had to follow Su Yan's instructions and take their own lives? The ancestor of the Xian people's face was gloomy. He had no choice. This was the order of the immortal martial king. He didn't dare to disobey. Die! The blood-stained head of the immortal martial king appeared within the immortal gate, exuding an extremely cruel and emotionless aura. His words caused the ancestor of the mystic sky sect to feel as though he had fallen into an icy cavern. In his heart, he was also cursing the immortal world. And you, Lord of the Underworld. Su Yin pointed at him and said coldly, "What are you standing there for? Don't you know it's your turn next? Get in line and take your own life." You shameless brat. The Lord of the Underworld was so angry that his entire body was trembling. Who would have thought that in the end, Su Yin would be able to force them to take their own lives? And you guys, Su Yin called out more than 10 names, which reverberated throughout the universe. Each of them were Daozu experts of their respective sects, existences who could summon the wind and summon the rain in the undying heavenly region. All of them had to go over and take their own lives. Rumble. The storm in the undying heavenly region raged as terrifying creatures went crazy. They cursed Su Yin and wanted to curse the immortal world. Who would have thought that they would really agree to Su Yan's ridiculous conditions? But now, there was no other way. The younger generation couldn't win, and the older generation was suppressed by the prehistoric elder brother. The immortal martial king had to force Su Yin to take the initiative to go to the immortal world. If not, everything would be lost. 20 Daozu experts, too ruthless. He has really gone mad. Before he leaves, he wants to kill all his enemies. This move is too ruthless. The experts of the sovereign sect were all scared. They were secretly glad that they didn't offend Su Yan. Otherwise, their ending would have been even more tragic. The great Daozu experts wanted to take their own lives. Moreover, under such circumstances, who could withstand it? Old Brow the Xian people, kill them all and take your own life. I will go to the immortal world directly and never look back. Su Yan's final words enraged the ancestors of the Xian people. The immortal slaying sword in his hand glowed brightly. His aura was extremely terrifying. Behind him, a majestic figure appeared. It was the manifestation of Daesong. The other 20 Daozu experts were also enraged. They quickly gathered together and glared at Su Yan. They wanted nothing more than to kill him right now. What? You don't want to? Su Yan said with a cold face. For the safety of the universe. Why don't you want to? This is a great achievement for saving the universe. As long as you kill yourselves to fulfill my wish, I, Su Yan, will not look back. I will step into the gate of the immortal world and never look back. Su Yan, you bastard, get lost. You want to kill us before you die? Dream on. The immortal world is targeting you. You want to drag us down with you? Impossible. The world was filled with angry voices. The 20 Daozu experts were furious. Even if the darkness disaster swept over, they could escape to the outer space. The disaster wouldn't be a threat to them. 21 Daozu experts, plus the old brat of the Xian people, plus me, there are 22 of us. Su Yan spoke in a heavy voice. The lives of us can be exchanged for the safety of the undying heavenly region. It's worth it. All of you, go on your way immediately. Don't waste any more time. This group of Daozu experts wanted nothing more than to crush Su Yan and tear his mouth apart. Make your move. There's also a memorial tablet for you in the ancestral hall. In the future, you will be the hero of the Xian people. The immortal martial king's voice was heavy. Su Yan had already made a blood oath. As long as they died, there was no need to fear that he wouldn't come. The countenance of the ancestor of the Xian people was extremely unsightly. If he didn't act, he would be abandoned by the Xian people. If he acted, only death would await him. This choice was too difficult. Rumble! The silent 5-element rings glowed once more, shooting out beams of light that connected to the undying heavenly region. They could work together with the ancestor of the Xian people to suppress the Lord of Hell and the others. Why aren't you making your move yet? The immortal martial king roared. He saw the Daozu experts remaining silent. Could it be that they still wanted to go against his will? Kill! In an instant, a terrifying sword light erupted. The golden sword core exuded a might that could annihilate 10,000 immortals. In an instant, it was so terrifying that even the universe trembled, as though it was about to be sliced apart. The entire world was shocked. Was the ancestor of the Xian people really going to commit suicide? The Sky Tyrant Lord had a look of astonishment on his face as he stared at the immortal slaying sword. Could this be the real deal? The expressions of the Lord of Hell and the others turned completely cold. If the ancestor of the Xian people dared to act, they would join forces and beat him to death. However, at the next moment, the entire scene went out of control. The ancestor of the Xian people waved the immortal slaying sword, cleaving apart the projection of the 5-element rings. At the same time, he let out a roar of anger. I've contributed greatly to the Xian people. The Xian people shouldn't want me to give up my life for such a ridiculous condition. They shouldn't. The Xian people are unfair. His roar rumbled, like millions of thunderbolts exploding in the heavens and earth. Su Yan coldly laughed. Now he knew that the Xian people were unfair. How dare you? The immortal martial king was completely enraged. The ancestor of the Xian people didn't obey his will. This was equivalent to betraying the Xian people. Immortal martial king, Sky Tyrant Lord, Su Yan coldly shouted. What else do you want to say? If they aren't willing to fulfill my wish, then I won't go to the celestial world. It doesn't matter if they go or not. In any case, if you don't come, this world won't be able to escape death. The Sky Tyrant Lord coldly shouted. If they go against our will, they won't be able to escape their fate in the future. What's the point of persevering? The Lord of Hell and the others felt so bad that they wanted to cry. Even if they survived, Su Yin had cut off their path of retreat. The entire universe was silent. None of the Daozu stood out to fulfill Su Yan's wish. Their lives were important. Su Yan's life was also important. Nobody had the right to force Su Yin to die. No. Su Yin suddenly waved his hand and said, I have one more condition. If you can fulfill it, I can also go to the celestial world. What do you want to say? The immortal martial king's face darkened. He felt that Su Yin was deliberately stalling for time. Boom! The heavens and earth trembled violently. It was like a ball of terrifying energy had exploded, shaking the heavens and earth. The aura was extremely shocking. What is he doing? Everyone in the world was shocked. This was especially so for those who were closer to Su Yin. They felt that he was even more terrifying and invincible compared to before. The terrifying energy he exuded shook the entire great continent and continued to spread towards the distant worlds. The terrifying aura continued to spread. Su Yin, who had only grown for a short period of time, had fully awakened. This also caused a shocking scene. The experts in the distant worlds could all see that the great continent was drowned in blood and qi, swallowing the entire universe. Also, an incomparable amount of holy energy gushed out from within. Since they aren't willing, let me send them on their way. Su Yin was breaking through, opening the gate to the Saint Realm. Chapter 1792. Bloody light rushed into the heavens, piercing through the great cosmos. It was as if an energy body was exploding, the great stars in the sky rumbling and shaking. Su Yin erupted with power, his most powerful fighting strength unsealed. His body's qi and blood filled the entire great province. Moreover, he released a great roar, heaven and earth trembling, the great Tao appearing in the sky. At this moment, Su Yin moved heaven and earth. His scattered black hair danced about, his pores gushing with terrifying qi and blood radiance. Moreover, the instant his body's treasures fully opened, all bodies resonated, intimidating the heavens. The creatures in the distant cosmos all trembled uncontrollably, almost paralyzed on the ground. The aura that leaked out was too world-shocking, exuberant and roiling, about to drown out the great earth of the East. It was as if a universe dragon was crowding the world. It was hard to imagine that this was truly a peak immortal Tao realm expert. At this moment, Su Yin was imposing to the extreme, roaring like a giant Daozu. His flesh emitted terrifying radiance, illuminating the heavens. A vast cosmos world appeared behind him. Long, the great province trembled greatly, energy roiling crazily. A blazing and terrifying figure rushed into the heavens, as if it smashed through the ancient starry sky. Its might was boundless, shaking the great world. At the same time, heaven and earth's environment recovered on its own, immediately flourishing with a rumble. Great Tao symbols filled the sky, densely arranged, as if they turned into a universe prison, locking down Su Yin. Open! Su Yin released a long roar, his body burning with battle flames. In that instant, he brandished a fist imprint, grand and world-shocking, covering the entire great province, majestic to the extreme. The fist imprint was world-shocking, surging with terrifying power. With a rumble, it immediately smashed apart the suppression of heaven and earth, smashing it to pieces. Daozu, who saw this scene all over the world, was greatly shaken. This was just too frightening and ridiculous. The suppression of heaven and earth was directly blasted apart by Su Yin. One had to understand that ordinary experts would need an extremely long time just to resist the suppression of heaven and earth. However, Su Yin was decisive and tyrannical, a single fist directly blasting apart the order of heaven and earth. He was simply about to cross over in a short period of time, standing at Daozu's level. Heaven and earth exploded, and the sun and moon were destroyed. This indicated how strong Su Yin was. The entire undying heavenly region was in an uproar. Su Yin was trying to break through to the next level. Daozu, no one would have thought that he would choose to break through at this juncture. In fact, how many years has it been since he stepped into the immortal Dao domain? This breakthrough had been rushed, and Su Yin had not made any preparations. But with the immortal source, things were different. This material was enough to ensure that during the breakthrough process, Su Yin would complete a complete life evolution. This little bastard, even if he can make a breakthrough, he still wants to kill us. The faces of the Lord of Hell and the others were extremely gloomy. They were all existences at the peak of the Saint Realm. Even if Su Yin had stepped into the Saint Realm, there was still a small gap between them and him. Did he think that he could kill all of them? Su Yan's figure was blazing, and his aura of majesty was getting thicker. At this moment, he was no longer bound, and he was no longer suppressed by the heaven and earth. He was invincible and lawless. But as Su Yan's aura resonated, and the heaven-bearing avatar was pushed to its peak state, the heaven and earth welcomed a huge change. An ancient aura was released, and it came from billions of years ago, suppressing the dilapidated environment. The gods trembled, and they were suffocating. The prehistoric environment that had crossed the river of time was pressing down. It was only a corner of the heavens, but it felt like billions of mountains were pressing down on them. Their bodies swayed, and they were about to fall uncontrollably. Bao Kai and the others were also shocked. They braced themselves and did not retreat. They could clearly feel the charm of the prehistoric environment. Billions of strands of pressure fell down, and it was enough to destroy all the experts in the immortal Dao domain. This was the prehistoric environment. Mighty force flowed, and order burned. It came crashing down, suppressing Su Yin. The prehistoric environment was pressing down, and a great crisis was also approaching. The prehistoric environment was magnificent beyond compare. In front of this environment, Su Yin seemed insignificant. He was like a speck of dust that could be crushed at any time. It was even to the extent that an extremely terrifying influence enveloped Su Yin. It was like numerous chains of the Grand Tao had locked onto Su Yin and confined him. Roar! In an instant, Su Yin roared toward the sky. His Tao and skills were burning. Even a grain of sand could fill the sea, a leaf of grass could cut down the stars in the heavens, and a seed could turn into a tree in the firmament. Su Yan's aura was violet. His body was like the universe, grand and transcendent. Inside, there was the sun, the moon, all things in the heavens, the 4 divisions, and the 8 trigrams. It pointed directly to the profound meaning of the universe's origin and the mystery of life's evolution. Boom! The heaven and earth trembled again. Even the prehistoric environment was shaking by the aura gushing out from Su Yan's flesh shell. If one looked closely, they would realize that all the treasures in Su Yan's body were burning, emitting billions of rays of blood chi. This was terrifying and shocking. Even the continents in the distance were shaken. In the boundless world of blood chi, that figure seemed to be nurtured by the prehistoric environment. It was blazing hot, as if he was carrying the universe on his back. Still not strong enough. Su Yin roared. He had to speed up his breakthrough. There was no time to waste. He had to do it as fast as he could. What kind of Dao seed did he fuse with? In the immortal sect, a group of young elites were shocked from the bottom of their hearts. They looked at the undying heavenly domain from afar and saw the vast energy that swept across dozens of continents. How terrifying. It's too frightening when this kind of person breaks through. After all, he's an expert that transcends mortality and enters sainthood. Who would have thought that the wasteland of the lower world could give birth to such a Yingjia? I can even feel the ancient aura. Is this the environment of the human world during its prime? It can actually manifest itself. Could it be that there's still hope for this world to recover? The elites of the immortal sect sighed. Su Yan's strength was unquestionable. Even Xian Yu of the immortal cave was killed by him. He might even be able to confer the title of a peak noble in the future. At the place where he broke through, chi and blood surged. An astonishing aura of the great Tao flowed. An immortal bell that had fused with Su Yin quietly appeared. It was as if it was sitting at the peak of the heavens. It poured down tens of thousands of supreme, great Tao seals, penetrating into Su Yan's flesh shell. In an instant, Su Yan's aura surged by a large amount. He had passed an important checkpoint on his path to becoming a saint. His body and Tao merged. Tens of thousands of Taos entered his body and fused together. The momentum was terrifying. Even the prehistoric environment couldn't be controlled. It couldn't suppress Su Yan at all. Huge cracks appeared one after another. "Break again," Su Yan roared. He was like a war immortal who had transcended the prehistoric era. He was invincible. His body and Tao merged together. He opened the immortal seed and treasures. It was as if he had fallen into the mother's womb and was being nourished. It was also as if he had turned into a heavenly fetus stone that could swallow the heaven and earth. He was omnipotent. The prehistoric environment became blurry, distorted, and eventually collapsed. What a terrifying scene this was. All the suppression of heaven and earth collapsed before Su Yan's figure. Moreover, when his figure erupted with all his might, it was as if he had broken through countless shackles. The rays of qi and blood that bloomed from his body became thicker and denser. He was like a war god that could swallow the heavens. His aura was too shocking. It was so vast that even the undying heavenly domain was shaken. Boom! At this moment, heaven and earth darkened. Raging winds howled. It could easily tear apart the stars. The people originally thought that the calamity of darkness had swept over again and affected this territory. But what made them shiver was that this was a shocking heavenly tribulation that was equivalent to a world-ending calamity. The entire world was filled with the sound of thunder. The vast, destructive tides were accompanied by the prehistoric heavenly might. It was as if the heavenly tribulation was spewing out along the river of time. It exuded an unparalleled, ferocious aura. It was formed by the fusion of countless laws and order. When it descended, it formed a raging sea that came crashing down one after another, heaven-defying. The old leader was surprised and overjoyed. Su Yan's heavenly tribulation was too monstrous. Its strength could be said to be ridiculous and terrifying. It was so much more terrifying than when he was facing his tribulation. Moreover, it was suppressed by the prehistoric environment. The continent Su Yan was and became blurry. Even Su Yan's figure disappeared. The entire world was filled with lightning. It was as if an ancient sea of stars was crashing down. Endless lightning bolts crashed down on Su Yan, wanting to crush him into pieces. Everyone knew that once a Daozu became a Daozu, he would be interrogated by the great Tao of heaven and earth. If he couldn't endure it, he was destined to die. Su Yan had already transcended mortality and entered the divine realm. Thus, his heavenly tribulation was rather heaven-defying and monstrous. It was as if layers of ancient universes were crashing down. Su Yan cried out miserably. His body seemed to have exploded and was covered in blood. "Ah!" Su Yan roared amidst the endless lightning bolts. He activated his strongest combat power and erupted in all directions. Even the energy and matter in his body began to revolve. It was as if he was operating the heavens of the universe to resist the suppression of the heavenly tribulation. Su Yan didn't expect the heavenly tribulation to be so heaven-defying. It was so powerful that even his body was about to explode. It was enough to destroy heaven and earth. He was resisting. This was the most critical moment. Endless lightning kept crashing down. Su Yan held on with great difficulty. He similarly guided countless lightning bolts through his body and into his blood and bones. He had to rely on his own potential to open the door to the saint realm. Although he could rely on resources to rush up, it was definitely not as tyrannical as completing his own transformation. The innumerable lightning bolts were a combination of the great Tao and order. They originated from the interrogation of heaven and earth and carried the extremely terrifying great Tao of the heavens. He was situated in the sea of lightning. The lightning he guided into his body broke apart his internal organs and shattered his flesh. His body seemed to have been obliterated. However, Su Yan's foundation was too monstrous. It was boundlessly powerful and could be reconstructed continuously. Even during the reconstruction process, his body of flesh and blood glowed and rumbled. Waves of tsunamis roared out and began to amplify. Su Yan felt his body heating up. It was so hot that he was about to explode. It was as if millions of heavenly fire ants were crawling around his body. They rampaged about and gnawed at his flesh and blood essence. They broke his bones and sucked his marrow. He felt as if he was about to die. His flesh and blood had dried up, and his body had turned into an immortal chrysalis. Attack! At the same time, outside the vast sea of lightning, Daozu roared angrily one after another. They instantly attacked in an extremely decisive and frenzied manner. The 5 Daozu rushed in. They were very clear that this was the most dangerous moment. Once Su Yan made it through, he would open up the power to break through. However, at this juncture, Su Yan was at his weakest. Kill! The 5 Daozu joined forces to open up the sea of lightning and rushed towards Su Yan, whose body was in tatters. They executed a thunderous attack to extinguish Su Yan's vitality. However, just as they were infinitely close to Su Yan, the rolling sea of lightning changed. Suddenly, the light of great annihilation appeared as if millions of lightning bolts were descending at the same time. No, the 5 Daozu were terrified. Their scalps were about to explode. What kind of heavenly tribulation was this? They couldn't resist it. Their bodies were about to be destroyed. The aura of great annihilation from the sea of lightning pressed down. The 5 Daozu screamed in despair. They saw Su Yan's decaying body burning in the direction of the source. A terrifying stream of holy power flowed. Although it was only one stream, it was like a holy dragon that had withstood the universe's heavens. It bore the weight of thousands of Daos and finally triggered the violent heavenly tribulation. Roar! Su Yan let out a long roar. His body exploded. What was this? A layer of old skin fell off. This was Su Yan's body. The new body was filled with holy light. Su Yan frantically took out a series of resources and devoured them to nourish more holy power. He had a premonition that the heavenly tribulation would change greatly. It was very terrifying and shocking. What do the 5 Daozu count for? One after another, their flesh shells cracked and their bodies exploded. The light of great annihilation pressed down. The Daozu trembled and howled as they died one after another. Breakthrough, let's begin. Su Yan hissed. His black hair danced. His body had already produced holy power. He wanted to produce more and tear open the door to the immortal world in a short time. He wanted to open more doors to the Sage Realm. Third Watch, Brothers, looking for monthly votes. Chapter 1793. The Daozu was dead, and his blood soared into the sky. This huge incident shook the entire immortal heavenly domain and caused a huge commotion. Countless living beings were trembling from the shock that came from the depths of their souls. Goosebumps appeared all over their bodies, and their blood boiled. What kind of tribulation was this? What did they see? The 5 experts that tore through the lightning sea were the 5 Daozu that wanted to kill Su Yan. Now, the lightning sea had undergone a huge change, and the light of destruction filled the sky. One after another, the Daozu were terrified. They couldn't withstand the lightning torrent that came crashing down from the sky, and it was accompanied by a death trap that was even more serious than the collapse of the environment. No, one after another, the Daozu screamed in fear. They couldn't withstand it at all. Their bodies were breaking apart, and their inner worlds were breaking apart. This was the death of the 5 terrifying existences, and it was as if the heavens were collapsing, destroying everything. Bam, bam, bam. Balls of thick blood light bloomed in the thunder sea one after another. The Tao ancestor had died, and the surging essence of qi and blood that scattered down raged in the thunder sea. Similarly, under the situation of the destruction of heaven and earth, the Tao ancestor could not reconstruct his physical body. Baokai screamed in fear. The five Daozu were suppressed to death. What kind of tribulation did Su Yin attract? The intensity was a little scary. This is the great tribulation of destruction. Some of the kings in the immortal sects screamed in fear. Strictly speaking, they had never experienced such a tribulation before. In fact, it was their first time encountering such a tribulation. Su Yin was just breaking through to the sage realm, and he actually attracted the great tribulation of destruction. This was unbelievable. What was the great tribulation of destruction? It was a destructive force that could destroy everything. To the experts who went against the heavens, it was a devastating blow. The five Daozu were bloody examples. They couldn't resist the great tribulation of destruction. The great tribulation of destruction mainly targeted the body. The destructive force was something that even the Daozu couldn't resist. Can this person survive? Who could survive such a heavenly tribulation? The five great Daozu died one after another, their flesh destroyed, even their primordial spirit light extinguished. They couldn't make it through at all. The Lord of the Underworld and the others were terrified. They didn't expect the heavenly tribulation to be so perverse. Fortunately, they didn't rush him before. Otherwise, even if they survived, they would definitely be severely injured. Boom! The light of great destruction rained down like the Milky Way pouring down from the nine heavens, drowning the heavens. It was also accompanied by terrifying lightning that struck down one after another. Roar! Su Yin roared. His reborn body shone, and his holy power overflowed. A grand and magnificent universe appeared behind him. The scriptures he cultivated were operating, and he recovered to his peak state. A great crisis swept over. Su Yin had just opened the door to the Saint Realm. He had no choice but to unleash his most terrifying combat strength to resist. His flesh merged with the grand universe behind him. His entire body emitted majestic life waves as he resisted the light of destruction that filled the sky. However, in just one exchange, the universe collapsed and withered. All order and laws exploded. They couldn't withstand the great destruction aura that filled the sky. It was crushing toward Su Yan's body. Uffed! Su Yan coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. His reborn body was on the verge of breaking apart, and he was trembling uncontrollably. However, Su Yan's reborn body was sturdy enough. It was like a terrifying killing machine that lay between heaven and earth. The five great Daozu couldn't withstand it and collapsed. However, he didn't. He was still alive. His flesh was too powerful and perverse. Once the heaven burial body opened the door to the Saint Realm, its potential would skyrocket. Tun, 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 Su Yin let out a long howl. His eyes were red, and his blood-stained flesh glowed. As he breathed, he formed a terrifying spectacle. The dense and monstrous essence of the dead Daozu gathered towards Su Yin. In an instant, Su Yan's body was blazing so intensely that it was about to explode. This was the life essence of the dead Daozu. It was truly perverse and exuberant to the extreme. It gave Su Yin an extremely terrifying boost, causing his flesh to grow tremendously in a short period of time. However, the faster Su Yin broke through, the more shocking the great annihilation force was. Even the prehistoric environment became blurry. It was as if the great halberd of annihilation had come crashing down, suppressing Su Yan's body with a rumble. Crack! The scene was too horrible to look at. Su Yan's newly born body was badly mutilated and was about to collapse. The area of the heavenly tribulation was filled with bloody light, and a tragic aura permeated the air. He can't hold on, he's going to die, the nobles in the immortal sect exclaimed. The great destruction light continued to descend, destroying Su Yan's flesh. The situation was extremely difficult. Some people felt that if the five Daozu didn't leak out their life essence, Su Yan would have died. At the same time, the timing of Su Yan's eruption was also extremely accurate. In a short period of time, Su Yan was able to endure this round of attacks. Su Yan, be careful. Quickly rush forward. Bao Kai and the others shouted anxiously. No one could help him, and they could only pray for the best. They didn't understand the great destruction, heavenly tribulation, and only God knew how long it would last. They needed Su Yin to be able to endure it. The immortal martial king and the sky tyrant lord's expressions were cold. If Su Yin was really refined to death, it would be a huge joke. The light of destruction continued to descend, together with a sea of lightning rolling down. How could one survive such a powerful heavenly tribulation? Su Yin was continuously injured. His hair was disheveled, and his saintly body was shaking unstably. The pressure was earth-shattering and didn't give him any time to breathe. No matter how strong a living being was, it was extremely difficult to endure. Whoosh! Suddenly, a crack appeared in the space outside the realm, and a dazzling leaf burst out, rushing into the sea of lightning. The leaf shone along the way, as if an ancient saint was chanting a heavenly scripture. Saint Medicine. The Sky Tyrant Lord recognized the origin of this leaf. They called the Daozu tree Saint Medicine. The legendary Saint Medicine. Can it be nurtured in the wasteland of the lower world? The young people in the immortal sects were all envious. They all wanted to have it. This thing had a great effect on breaking through to the saint realm, and even a minor saint breaking through to the Daesong realm would be useful. It's really too wasteful. He has already blasted open the door to the saint realm. Some people were speechless. Su Yin didn't need the saint medicine at all. Of course, it had its effects. It could let his physical body produce a large amount of saintly power in a short period of time, speeding up his evolution by a lot. It was very important for Su Yan's current dangerous situation. The Xian people's ancestor's face was gloomy. This was his strongest trump card, a complete saint tree. Even in the immortal world, it was a top-notch resource, and there were 9 saint medicines on it. Now, it had completely fulfilled the Celestial Court's wish. This saint medicine directly merged with Su Yan. His mangled body blazed again, and his wounds were healed. The energy contained in this saint medicine was quite shocking. There were even countless fragments of the great path of the saint realm surging out, penetrating Su Yan's limbs and bones. It was as if they had turned into the universe's saint stars and suddenly merged with Su Yan's physical body. Ah! Su Yan roared, and divine light leaked out of his physical body. It was as if a million volcanoes had exploded. His physical body burned terrifyingly. This saint medicine was of great help to Su Yan. His cultivation soared, and his physical body evolved and was nourished. Suddenly, a huge amount of saintly power came out. Boom! Heaven and earth exploded, and the saintly power in the sky boiled, collapsing the light of great destruction. It crashed into the sea of lightning one after another, and a huge hole appeared in the sky. It was as if the heavenly tribulation had exploded. What? He blasted open the great destruction. The young people in the celestial sect couldn't believe it. The scene was too unreal. The 5 Daesong cultivators had all died. How did Su Yan do it? Some noble plane cultivators shook their heads. In fact, the great destruction wouldn't be brewing forever. Otherwise, no one would be able to survive it. 2 or 3 attacks were already very impressive. Su Yan's saint body was terrifying. 10,000 bodies resonated, and his strength was extraordinary. He was also filled with a vast saintly aura. What kind of terrifying power was this? Even the great destruction, heavenly tribulation had been blasted open. Su Yan's domineering aura overflowed. He held the world-destroying halberd with one hand, and his entire person was like a king among saints who could split open the sky and destroy the world. He charged into the brewing heavenly tribulation. Was the lightning tribulation over? Of course not. The vast heavenly tribulation once again scattered down. The light of lightning tore through everything in the universe. It carried the power of the prehistoric environment and pressed down with a rumble. It also whistled through the sky like a tide of lightning. Boom! The world-destroying divine sound exploded, and everyone in the world was dumbstruck. This was the world-destroying halberd that Su Yan had won. The power it emitted could be said to be earth-shattering. It could easily crush the stars. Its power was endless, and it broke open the sea of lightning that was pressing down from the sky. "Kill!" Su Yin roared. His black hair danced wildly, and the heavenly tribulation was about to change its course. The heavenly tribulation continued, and its extent was unimaginable. All kinds of terrifying heavenly tribulations struck down one after another. There were suns that filled the sky, and countless large stars that crashed down. Each of the heavenly tribulations carried the power of the great Tao of the heavens, and flooded the place where one was about to break through. In fact, the heavenly tribulation had progressed to this stage. It was enough to make even saints tremble in fear. This was too ridiculous. Could it be that once one transcended mortality and entered the divine realm, one would have to go through such a perverted test? Su Yin's figure could not be found in the sea of lightning. All kinds of heavenly tribulations filled the sky and pressed down continuously, wanting to destroy Su Yin. He's getting stronger. His aura is getting stronger. The Lord of the Underworld's face was gloomy. He occupied the periphery of the heavenly tribulation and was ready to kill Su Yin at any time. They could sense that the figure in the lightning tribulation was getting more and more perverted. What good thing did he swallow? To be able to continue increasing his combat strength under such pressure, there was no doubt that Su Yin was going further and further on the road to becoming a saint. Once he crossed over, no matter how terrifying the heavenly tribulation was, it would be completely destroyed. One had to know that Su Yin possessed the immortal source, a total of 3,000 caddies of immortal source. Every caddy of immortal source contained the origin energy of the immortal world. It continuously cleansed Su Yan's flesh and blood and nourished his body, evolving into a huge amount of saint power. Awesome, awesome. Su Yin laughed excitedly. Almost 250 caddies of immortal source had been refined. His strength had skyrocketed, and it was still growing. Until now, it had not completely satisfied the energy replenishment he needed at this stage. Boom! Half an hour passed. In the chaos, heavenly tribulation, a monstrous saint might surged out. All the living beings in the world trembled. A huge rift valley appeared in the sea of lightning. A terrifying figure charged out, and it blazed like the immortal sun everywhere it passed. The heavens and the earth resonated, while the order of the grand Tao that covered the sky appeared in the sky, and it paved a path of the heavens and the earth to welcome Su Yin into the world. Had he returned as a saint? Su Yin wielded the world-extinguishing halberd with one hand. He was like a patrolling war god that had descended to the mortal realm. However, behind him was an extremely terrifying and crazy scene. Endless lightning surged out, carrying with it the might of the prehistoric heaven and earth. It could easily destroy a large province. The heaven-sealing sect Daozu was terrified. His hair stood on end. Su Yin had arrived. Countless lightning bolts struck down from the heavens. This was the complete annihilation of the world. "Little bastard, you dare!" The heaven-sealing sect Daozu roared in anger and madly resisted. He used all sorts of methods, but the power of the heaven-sealing sect Daozu was too terrifying. The heaven-sealing sect Daozu's power he released was riddled with holes. Billions of lightning bolts drowned his body. He screamed as his flesh was torn apart. Strictly speaking, the heaven-sealing sect leader was stronger than the previous 5 Daozu. However, the sea of lightning he faced was too ridiculous. He was heavily injured. Boom! In an instant, a pitch-black halberd appeared in the sea of lightning. The lightning bolts exploded. Su Yin wielded the halberd with one hand. This excessively heavy world-extinguishing halberd directly pressed down on the top of his head. How is this possible? The heaven-sealing sect Daozu despaired. This weapon was already terrifying enough. The pressure caused his body to tremble. Thick blood and broken bones spurted out from his pores. His entire body was collapsing. It was too painful. For more. Chapter 1794. Su Yin stood tall in the sea of lightning. His aura was peerless and terrifying as his saint force filled the sky. His aura swallowed the desolation as he wielded the world-extinguishing halberd above Heaven-Sealing Founder's head, forming a shocking scene. This was the founder of Heaven-Sealing Founder, not an ordinary Daozu expert who had lived for countless years. At this moment, the entire world was terrified. Heaven-Sealing Founder was heavily injured under the suppression of the vast sea of lightning. He couldn't stop the incoming world-extinguishing halberd because the moment the halberd came crashing down, all of the laws and energies emitted by the Founder exploded. Unstoppable and unstoppable. This weapon was too tyrannical and crushed the lightning in the sky. Moreover, the world-extinguishing halberd was constantly devouring the lightning Dao's essence. It resonated with Su Yan's aura. Kill! Su Yan roared. His majestic appearance, disheveled black hair, and heaven-overflowing saint aura. This was truly a peerless tyranny. The world-extinguishing halberd shone brightly like a supreme weapon capable of crushing purgatory. It caused the Heaven-Sealing Founder's head to explode. Even his body was exploding as the laws and energies around his body were being crushed and disintegrated. Heaven-Sealing Founder was in despair. His primordial spirit was being suppressed to the point of being extinguished. He was truly afraid. In the end, he was killed by Su Yan in such a humiliating manner. He was quite unwilling to accept this. Bang! His body exploded, turning into ashes. The sixth Daozu was killed. Su Yan's ferocious might was boundless. Even the heavenly tribulation couldn't suppress his elegance. Even though the endless lightning continued to strike him, Su Yan still displayed a terrifying battle prowess. Suddenly, his body swayed, but he still rushed towards one enemy after another. Was he going to challenge a group of Daozu by himself? Everyone in the world went crazy. The scene of the breakthrough changed greatly. Wherever a figure passed, the heaven and earth would be destroyed. The sun and moon would sink as a world-extinguishing storm surged and engulfed the entire place, engulfing all enemies. Let's go, an aged heavenly beast roared. Originally, it had been waiting near the heavenly tribulation, waiting for Su Yan to complete his breakthrough so that it could attack and kill him. However, no one had expected that Su Yan would be so crazy as to lure them into a trap with the sea of lightning. Where do you think you're going? Su Yan let out a long howl. He forcefully endured the endless heavenly tribulation and charged towards the old heavenly beast. In fact, before Su Yan even got close, there was already a surging tide of lightning striking down, causing the sky to shatter and the entire ground to be overturned. Roar! The old heavenly beast roared. His declining essence blood-burned. One had to admit that he was terrifying. Although he wasn't at the peak of the saint realm, the heavenly beast race's battle prowess was extraordinary. Once he recovered to his peak state, his body would be huge enough to support the ancient star sea. He attacked madly in the sea of lightning, wanting to carve out a bloody path. However, no matter how invincible and perverse the old heavenly beast was, this heavenly tribulation was so terrifying that it made Daozu panic. All kinds of heavenly tribulations filled the sky and blended together, forming a chaotic heavenly tribulation. No matter how heaven-defying the old heavenly beast body was, his huge body was trembling from the lightning strikes. Large cracks appeared on his body. He was about to explode and die. The old heavenly beast screamed. This heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. He was no match for it. Moreover, Su Yan was already here. The world-destructing halberd pressed down on the old heavenly beast's chest, causing a bloody hole to appear. All the bones in his body were shattered. No! The old heavenly beast screamed in despair. His blood-stained body was char-black. Countless lightning bolts rushed into his flesh and started a destructive killing, tearing the old heavenly beast's body apart. Not long after, a huge blood-colored mushroom cloud rose from the sea of lightning. The old heavenly beast was dead. The seventh Daozu had died tragically. However, the heavenly tribulation still covered several Daozu experts. It was difficult for them to charge out in a short time. Kill! Su Yan attacked violently in the sea of lightning. He rushed to his next target, using the world-destructing halberd to open a path. His body withstood the torrential lightning bolts pressing down on him. Some people even felt that Su Yan was about to die. His body trembled unceasingly. Blood was gushing out from his pores. Su Yan was coughing up blood. His explosive strength was too strong. Everyone suspected that Su Yan had entered a period of weakness. Who would have thought that in the next moment, Su Yan's tall figure that was covered in blood once again blazed with flames. A huge amount of saint energy gushed out continuously. His aura was once again terrifying and towering. How is this possible? He's still growing stronger. What did he swallow? The crowd exclaimed. The three Daozu experts who were trapped in the sea of lightning were already in despair. How could such a ridiculous thing happen? In reality, they didn't understand the immortal origin at all. The celestial martial king and the sky tyrant lord's faces were gloomy. 3,000 gene of immortal origin. It was enough for Su Yan to cultivate to the peak of the saint realm. This was a huge amount of wealth. Even to them, it was equivalent to cutting off their flesh. No one would be willing to use such a huge amount of immortal origin to break through. Only those old cultivators who couldn't break through to the next realm would do so. They would use the immortal origin to cleanse their saint body and recover their lost blood essence. From this, it could be seen how precious the immortal origin was. Some old cultivators couldn't break through to the saint realm even after 10,000 years. But as long as they had the immortal origin, it would be enough for them to break through. This also showed that the immortal origin was the ultimate strategic resource. Who else? Su Yan roared. He killed the 3 Daozu experts in the heavenly tribulation. 10 Daozu experts died one after another. The impact was too shocking. Such a ridiculous thing had never happened in the undying heavenly domain before. In less than a day, 10 Daozu experts died. The youngsters in the immortal sects were dumbfounded. This was a heavenly tribulation that even 5th or 6th heavenly layer saints couldn't withstand. How terrifying was this tribulation? That little bastard, the Lord of Hell's face was cold. He, the odd heaven sect's ancestor, and the Xian people's ancestor were all at the peak of the saint realm, 9th heavenly layer, relying on the heavenly tribulation. Let's see how long he can be arrogant. The odd heaven sect's ancestor was so angry that his stomach hurt. He could no longer control Su Yan's growth. The heavenly tribulation had become somewhat strange and ridiculous. The heavenly tribulation rolled down from the sky, bringing with it a sad but beautiful bloody light. It was as if the heavens were weeping and gods and devils were howling. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. Su Yan was crushed. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. His injuries were serious. His expression changed. The heavenly tribulation surged with a terrifying sealing power, even giving birth to chains of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Although it was a bit blurry, it was too terrifying. What kind of tribulation was this? It was unheard of. The heaven and earth actually emitted a heaven-punishing aura. What's that? Everyone was shocked. The heavenly tribulation gave birth to a material substance. There were blood-colored eyeballs, sword rays of laws, reincarnation light, scarlet lightning. Boom. All kinds of lightning struck down from the sky. Heaven and earth exploded. The heaven-punishing aura surged wildly, destroying everything. It was so terrifying that it made everyone tremble. Nothing could be seen clearly. It was as if the place to break through had been completely destroyed. Su Yan was seriously injured. His body was about to fall apart. The supreme, heaven-punishing tribulation pressed down. The pain was unbearable. It was as if he was rolling in hell, enduring the judgment of millions of tribulations. The process was worse than death. He even caught the aura of the reincarnation, heaven-punishing Tao and heaven-punishing sword Tao. This was a bit frightening. The heavenly tribulation showed the power of 10 heaven-punishing Taos. This was simply the most terrifying heavenly tribulation in the heavenly great world. It rolled down and struck down. The young people in the celestial sect were silent. This person was really too terrifying and invincible. Although they didn't know what kind of tribulation Su Yin was facing, once the heavenly tribulation manifested a material substance, it was enough to prove that this was the most terrifying killing in this world. Could it be that this person was comparable to the strongest geniuses of the Heaven-Burying Cave? One had to know that when the Heaven-Burying Cave was at its peak, there were unparalleled geniuses who could compete with the unparalleled geniuses of the Celestial Cave. It was too glorious and peerless. "You can't kill me. Come." Su Yin let out a beast-like roar. He was in too much pain. His body was broken, and his primordial spirit was dim. His body was burning with heaven-punishing fire. There were all kinds of wounds on his body. The 10 heaven-punishing Daos rolled down and killed one person. It was unbelievable. How terrifying was this heavenly tribulation? Su Yin was almost imprisoned in the place of heavenly tribulation. He was burned by fire, struck by lightning, beheaded by a sword, sent into reincarnation, and blasted into a place of eternal damnation. Thousands of tribulations, all pressed down on his body and mind. He struggled in the desperate situation, frantically refining the immortal origin to replenish his body's losses. The old leader was very worried. This tribulation was too perverse. Su Yan's recovery speed was already very fast, but it could not compare to the damage caused to him by the heavenly tribulation. The entire world was filled with the aura of heaven punishing. It howled violently and automatically formed heaven-punishing imprints, pressing down on Su Yan's body. It drilled into his blood and bones and carried out a destructive attack. Rather than calling it heaven and earth's torture, it was better to call it the cruel torture of the 10 heaven-punishing Daos on him. "Ah!" Su Yin let out a roar. His body was about to explode. The surging heaven-punishing imprints corroded Su Yan's soul. In an instant, it deepened his understanding of the power of heaven punishing. It could be said that it was engraved in his bones and heart. "You can't kill me. My life is in my own hands, not the heavens." Su Yin roared. His body blazed and his chest shone. Monstrous reincarnation, light, rain, splashed out. Even the endless heaven-punishing imprints on his body glowed. This was a shocking scene. Su Yan's first natural abhijna was revived. He turned into a small reincarnation person and swallowed the heaven-punishing imprints on his body. In an instant, it was as if the ancient door of reincarnation had opened. Monstrous reincarnation, light, rain poured out. Accompanied by the power of heaven punishing, it resisted the great killing tribulation. Even a sword radiance rushed out from the top of his head. Blood-red light filled the sky. Billions of rays of killing light turned into a heaven-punishing sword embryo. It slashed immortality, and time. It vaguely chased after the river of time and split the past, present, and future. Roar! Su Yin let out a long roar. Like a ferocious dragon, his aura resonated and the chanting of sutras rumbled. His body shone brightly. He resisted the strongest tribulation. A large portion of the shackles between heaven and earth disappeared. From this moment on, the heavenly tribulation could no longer hide Su Yin. He had awakened in defiance of the heavens, and his life essence had improved greatly. Kaboom! His body rumbled. His body also turned into the door of the saint realm. The heavens were laid out horizontally. His dharma was unparalleled. Endless rules of order were born. He turned into a terrifying saint. It was too dazzling and brilliant. The majestic figure rose and stood tall. It indicated that a saint had been born between heaven and earth. Su Yin had become a saint, a man of few words. Brothers, let's continue today. Chapter 1795. He broke through. Su Yin broke through the shackles and broke free from the suppression of the environment. He was unrestrained and fully awakened. The potential of his treasure was released, and his aura was terrifying beyond compare. Boom! Heaven and earth roared, and the universe trembled. The might of a saint surged. Su Yin looked down on the heavens and the sea of stars, wielding the great Tao. The gate to the saint realm was fully opened, and a shocking power spread out from his saint body. This was the power of his physical body's treasure. Streaks of dazzling Milky Way flowed out, healing his injured body. "I've finally broken through." Suyan's flesh and blood shone brightly. The potential of his body was awakened and strengthened. This was the replenishment of a huge amount of saint power. Suyan's life essence had completed its evolution. The deep transformation was complete, and the meaning was completely different. He had turned into a saint and stood above the environment. From now on, he would no longer be bound by the rules of the world. Now, it was a critical moment for him to sublimate and become stronger. The sky was filled with surging chi and blood, covering the sky and the sun. Along the way, heaven and earth dimmed. The world's energy sources were drying up, and it was completely reduced to a wasteland. Suyan's foundation was too great. Even heaven and earth could not satisfy him. Large amounts of immortal sources were also burning, ensuring that he could break through to a higher realm in one go. Suyan's foundation was too deep. Once he stepped into the saint realm, it would not be as simple as the first layer of heaven. He could break through to a higher realm. Is Suyan done breaking through? Everyone in the world was looking at him. The heavenly tribulation was still continuing and had not dissipated. This meant that Suyan's breakthrough wasn't over yet. His strength had undergone an earth-shattering change. His blood and chi were exuberant like a cosmic furnace. His aura was truly too frightening. At this moment, Suyan had also transformed into a terrifying life form that shook the heavens. Boom! The next moment, everyone exclaimed. The heavenly tribulation struck again. The heavenly tribulation's aura scattered, and the substance in the sea of lightning became clearer. It surged with an unparalleled power of the universe's origin. Every tribulation seemed to have crossed the river of history. It came from the ancient times and suppressed Suyan from all directions. The heavenly tribulation was still there. Suyan had not finished breaking through. He continued to release his potential and strive to climb to a higher realm. Kill. The power of the two heaven-vanquishing secret techniques was naturally boosted by a huge margin. Suyan held the sword embryo of time in his left hand and the gate of reincarnation in his right. He was both grand and blurry as he pressed down on the 10 Tao tribulations of the heavenly eyes of eradication. Even this can be broken? I think the heavenly tribulation is about to end. Everyone was shocked. Suyan had made it through. Even though the 10 tribulations of the eyes of execution had not completely dissipated, he could still threaten the gods' tribulations. Therefore, it shouldn't be so difficult for him to break through. He really is a ruthless person. He once again charged into the sea of lightning to receive the baptism of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Such a powerful heavenly tribulation must contain the supreme, profound meaning of the universe. The stronger the baptism, the greater the harvest. Since the heavenly tribulation has manifested material killing intent, it is enough to show that it bears the origin of the great Tao of heaven and earth. It is not so easy to be baptized. In the terrifying lightning, Suyan's figure was nowhere to be found. The heavenly tribulation was still going on. Suyan knew that he would be killed if he escaped into the origin of the heavenly tribulation. He had made ample preparations, but he didn't expect to be dismembered the moment he entered. The 10 Tao tribulations of the heavenly eyes of eradication were truly perverse. However, it was also like the origin of the universe. Even though the killing intent was boundless, it contained great opportunities. Suyan didn't want to miss it so easily. He held on bitterly and guided the heavenly eyes of eradication into his body. He borrowed the origin of the heavenly eyes of the universe to temper his sage body. If I make it through, I can avoid many detours in the sage realm. I can rush to the pinnacle domain at an extremely fast speed. It would be best if I could rush straight to the 5th heaven of the sage realm. Suyan's eyes were burning with passion and fighting spirit. This was a rare opportunity. This was the origin of the heavens of eradication. It contained the heavenly eyes of eradication and was filled with the great Tao of the universe. As long as he could absorb some of it, it would be of great help to his growth. When a large amount of immortal source was burning, every kilogram of immortal source released a huge amount of immortal world's origin energy. Now, close to 1,000 kilograms of immortal source was burning, forming a miraculous scene. The sky was filled with auspicious clouds, and immortal chi was like a tide. Among them, there were true dragons, immortal phoenixes, and other creatures. They appeared in the immortal source, and then entered Su Yan's sage body. With every kilogram of immortal source refined, Su Yan's aura increased by a little. He was shocked and fearful. This was the immortal source. It was too important and worthy of being a rare resource in the immortal world. The powerful immortal feather only had 400 kilograms of it. Su Yan controlled 3,000 kilograms of immortal source. This was a huge fortune. Large amounts of immortal source continued to melt and flow with surging energy. It stimulated Su Yan to awaken more and more of his sage body's origin. Gradually, the sea of lightning spread, and a majestic wave like that of an immemorial azure dragon spread. The heaven-punishing 10 Tao tribulation was vast, covering the scene of Su Yan's breakthrough. Although Su Yan's figure could no longer be found in the heaven-punishing tribulation, large cracks would appear from time to time. This was the sound of the world extinguishing halberd colliding. It crushed the vast lightning and was absorbing the lightning. The Sky Tyrant Lord's face was gloomy. This was the weapon he had held for a long time and regarded as his strongest treasure. Now it was in Su Yan's hands. He borrowed the universe's origin energy to forge the world-extinguishing halberd and imprint it with Su Yan's life imprints. From now on, it would be almost impossible to take back this weapon. What is that? Did the heaven-punishing tribulation mutate again? Half a day later, everyone was shocked to find that a corner of the vast sea of lightning was rumbling and trembling. A huge change had occurred. Grains of crystal clear, 9-colored sand flowed out in an extremely strange manner. Each grain was exceptionally heavy, especially now that 1,000,000 grains of sand flowed out. They forcefully broke open a corner of the sea of lightning. 1,000,000 grains of 9-colored sand flowed in the cracked sea of lightning. It was really mysterious, and when combined together, it was frighteningly heavy. The 9-colored sand filled the sky, and its aura quickly became violet. The moment it spun, the world exploded and turned into millions of stars in the universe. They spun in the sea of lightning, creating an area of nothingness. Even the Sky Tyrant Lord couldn't tell what it was. The 1,000,000 grains of sand were mysterious and unfathomable. They moved on their own and turned into the universe. The hazy heaven-punishing aura, accompanied by the chanting of sutras, seemed to outline a magnificent 9-colored universe. They floated in the sea of lightning and absorbed the power of the sea of lightning. At that moment, everyone realized that this was a set of mysterious treasures that Su Yan had forged. In short, the Sea of Stars and the world-extinguishing halberd were controlled by Su Yan. The Sea of Lightning gradually calmed down and became Su Yan's personal training ground. "My lord, this is bad." Suddenly, an overlord of the Xian people rushed out of the gate of the divine world. He looked terrified, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. "What are you panicking for? Where are your manners?" The severely injured king, Immortal Marshal, shouted angrily. However, the overlord of the Xian people was shocked when he saw King Immortal Marshal's half-dead body. He knelt down and shouted, "The guardian of the king's city has come to our tribe." The guardian of the king's city? What was he doing here? King Immortal Marshal's face darkened. He naturally knew the importance of this person. However, this guardian didn't have much of a relationship with the Xian people. Why would he come to their tribe at this critical moment? He came with the emperor's token. As soon as this sentence was said, the Sky Tyrant Lord's face changed drastically. His eyes widened, and he stared at the overlord who came to report. He said in a trembling voice, "What did you say? What was the emperor's token?" They knew very well that the guardian of the king's city had brought the emperor's token. But whose emperor's token was it? Once the emperor's token was used, all the tribes would respect it. The emperor's token had the right to order the emperor clan to do things unconditionally. This token not only represented unparalleled achievements and glory, but also great privileges in the divine world. The number of emperors who had the emperor's token was too few. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they could be counted with one's fingers. Even for titled emperors, it was extremely difficult to obtain an emperor's token. At this moment, an expert from the Reincarnation Emperor clan came over. His expression was one of terror. Something big had happened in the divine world. The news of 2 emperor clans using the celestial world gates for private purposes had already spread out. Right now, a group of terrifying experts had come to investigate this matter. They wanted them to immediately locate the location of the celestial world gates. Using the celestial world gates for private purposes was a great crime. In the divine world, there were 10 celestial world gates that guarded the 10 borders. Even the emperor clans didn't have the qualifications to use the celestial world gates for private purposes without any prior warning. After all, the celestial world gates were an important treasure that could resist the power of the dark world. What's the emperor's token? The younger generation of the immortal martial sect didn't understand. Strictly speaking, it had been too long since the last time the emperor's token appeared. But since it could cause an emperor realm expert to feel uneasy and panic, it was enough to show how powerful the emperor's token was. Daozu was a saint. The saint realm was divided into saints and daesong. Above them were the emperor realm experts. The sky tyrant lord and the immortal martial king were both emperors. They belonged to the peak of the divine world. Bastard. The sky tyrant lord's expression turned ashen. Could it be that the emperor's token came from the mortal world? Could it be that there were still some of the terrifying experts from the mortal world who had survived? This matter was extremely serious. It was no longer like a million years ago when no one knew about it. Once this matter was leaked out, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. The divine world was the main force that resisted the dark world. Every time there was a war, countless experts would die. The major races in the divine world wouldn't tolerate it. There were even some races that used the dark calamity to threaten the lives of trillions of living beings. Although the prehistoric burial grounds and the divine world had broken off relations, they would still choose to join forces against the dark world. More importantly, the divine world wouldn't allow this world to be invaded. If not, the 3 worlds would become 2 worlds. In the future, the divine world would be the one to suffer losses. Rumble. At the same time, within the closed divine world gate, immortal might rumbled. King Immortal Marshall's blood-stained head appeared once again. He shouted angrily at the sea of lightning. The time is up. Enter the divine world immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. What are you in such a hurry for? Old Man Heavenly Sun said in a low voice. Didn't we agree on the matter before? Su Yin is about to complete his breakthrough. Isn't the time to do this? A day's time has passed. I've already given him half a day's time. King Immortal Marshall shouted coldly. Final warning. Come to the divine world gate immediately. Otherwise, this world will be destroyed. As soon as his voice fell, the silent origin of darkness rumbled once again. The sealing power of the divine world was greatly weakened. The boundless origin of darkness was agitated. Even the sky was collapsing. It was the end of the world. Even if a small amount of the origin of darkness leaked out, it was like a peerless demon had broken through the seal. It rushed towards the various continents of the undying heavenly domain. In the blink of an eye, the continents sank. The apocalyptic storm swept across the continents like Mount Tai. All the living beings in the world were terrified. If the Sword Sect's founding ancestor and the others hadn't teleported away all the living beings in the nearby continents, then just this calamity alone would have killed countless cultivators. In short, the calamity of darkness had begun to erupt once more. If the sealing power of the divine world gate dissipated completely, the undying heavenly domain would be reaped again. The Sword Sect founder and the others were furious. Even if they were powerful, they couldn't move more people in a short period of time. The origin of darkness was about to erupt again. The undying heavenly domain would be in danger of being wiped out. Su Yin, you are a god of plague. Hurry up and leave. Don't drag us down with you. The Odd Heavens sect founder roared. Don't tell me you want to kill us all before leaving. Who do you think you are? You just broke through. How strong can you be? If you don't leave, everyone will die. Rumble. Just as he finished speaking, the sea of lightning collapsed. Su Yin came out of seclusion. With the sea of stars above his head and the world extinguishing halberd in one hand, he stood tall between heaven and earth. Come up immediately. King Immortal Marshal roared. Don't think I'm joking. This is your last warning. Don't scare me. I'm not scared. Su Yin glanced at the Divine World Gate and said, I'll give you a chance to retract the power of the Divine World Gate. Let's see if you dare or not. If you have the guts, do it. Let's see if you have the confidence to do so. His voice was like thunder, causing the outer world to tremble. The Divine World Gate rumbled. King Immortal Marshal and the others were enraged. Even if Su Yin had transcended mortality and entered the Saint Realm, he was still a small character in their eyes. Bastard! King Immortal Marshal's eyes widened. He and the Sky Tyrant Lord couldn't hold it in any longer. But they really didn't dare. The Tao protectors of the King City came out with the Emperor's order. The entire Divine World was in chaos. If they really gave up on sealing the Divine World Gate, the matter of them using the Divine World Gate for personal gain would be confirmed. Even a matter of them killing billions of lives would become the greatest stain in the history of the Emperor race. Since you don't dare, then what the hell are you talking about? You're so noisy. Su Yin snorted coldly. His body rose from the ground. Like a terrifying Saint King, celestial body, he suddenly rushed to the end of heaven and earth, charging towards the mysterious Heaven Sect's ancestor. Little bastard, are you here to die? The mysterious Heaven Sect's ancestor wasn't afraid. His eyes shot out cold lightning. The space around him spun as he controlled the power of heaven and earth. Kill! Su Yin roared. His aura instantly became much more terrifying. 4 Daysong gates opened in his body. It was as if 4 great universes were blooming. The entire area also exploded with energy. Saint Realm, Level 4. In the Immortal Gate, the group of youngsters felt their scalps go numb. They all thought that they were seeing things. At this moment, Su Yin was too frightening. He had used his strongest combat strength the moment he attacked. The momentum of the world was changing as he unleashed his strongest punch. His vital energy and blood burned the sky. Even the stars in the universe were extinguished. One could imagine how frightening it was. So what if he was at the peak of the Saint Realm? His arm was directly blown off by Su Yan's fist. Old thing, I've tolerated you for a long time. Get over here and die. Su Yan roared. The heavily injured mysterious Heaven Sect's ancestor trembled. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. He flew out like a dead dog, smashing into a mountain. The second chapter is here. This is a big chapter. Chapter 1796. Dust billowed, and rubble soared into the sky. The mysterious Sky Sect's primogenitor, the world's most powerful Tao ancestor, was currently experiencing a dreamlike experience. It was too unreal. His entire arm was shattered, unable to withstand Su Yan's terrifying battle prowess. With that roar, gods and devils danced wildly, and the scene was monstrous. Boundless divine might swept through the 4 seas and oceans. The great stars in the universe were all shattered. A terrifying Overlord Saint King was born just like that. He was indomitable and indomitable, extremely brilliant and glorious. He emitted an aura of invincibility under the heavens, an exceptional and terrifying conviction. He's invincible. One after another, Daozu's heart trembled. What kind of battle prowess was this? He had just broken through to the Saint Realm, yet he forcefully opened the 4 great universe secret realms and rushed into the 4th Heaven Saint Realm. This was too ridiculous. Su Yan's 1,500 gene of immortal origin was almost exhausted. In addition, he had refined his saint body in the universe's heavenly tribulation and excavated his own saint realm treasures. He crazily grew stronger and evolved, and finally entered the fourth heaven saint realm. "Get out here!" Su Yin let out a furious roar, and the sky cracked and the earth shattered. A terrifying creature went berserk, and his roar shattered the dust and rocks in the sky. Endless Ferocious might also press down on the odd heaven sex progenitor. Pooh! The odd heaven sex progenitor screamed miserably as he flew through the void. His hair was disheveled, and his body trembled along the way. Dense, bloody light spurted out from his pores, dyeing the starry sky red. Kill! In an instant, Su Yin erupted. Terrifying, invincible, and peerlessly domineering, he crossed an entire continent in an instant. Along the way, he tore a terrifying crack, and it was as if a universe's emperor star was colliding. Everywhere he passed, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Fierce winds howled, and terrifying divine power wreaked havoc. The Daozu felt their scalps going numb. At this moment, Su Yin had become one of the strongest experts in the undying heavenly domain. His blood and qi surged, and his terrifying strength shook the continents far away. Even the blue ocean was pushed back and rushed out into the outer realm. Su Yin went berserk, and the world was thrown into chaos. No matter how powerful the progenitor's heaven and earth power was, it couldn't suppress Su Yin at all. Even the prehistoric environment couldn't suppress him, let alone the progenitor of the marvelous heaven sect. Although he was a ninth heaven saint realm expert, he was still old and weak, and his battle strength was not as strong as it was in his prime. Pooh! The progenitor suffered another grievous injury. Half of his body was destroyed, and he let out a miserable howl. His body was on the verge of exploding. All of his power and Taoist magics were suppressed by Su Yin. His eyes were filled with shock. How was this possible? What had he experienced in the Sea of Lightning? In such a short time, he had broken through several small realms and stood at the fourth heaven of the Saint Realm. He was even starting to attack peak Saint Realm experts, and he was even using such a violent method to crush them. What are you waiting for? The progenitor of the marvelous heaven sect couldn't take it anymore. If Su Yin did it again, he would be beaten to death. Su Yan's figure swept over again, ignoring all laws and order. He descended from the sky and raised a golden foot, about to stomp the progenitor of the marvelous heaven sect to death. Suppress. Suddenly the world changed. Darkness covered the sun, and millions of strands of Yin-Chi appeared. The door to the netherworld opened wide, and it was like a myriad of ghosts were howling. This was a vast purgatory that was pressing down from the heavens, and its supreme ferocious might was spreading out. At the same time, it was accompanied by the extremely terrifying energy of samsara that was surging explosively. Dong! On the other side, the progenitor of the Xian people charged over. He directly waved his fist and unleashed the most powerful essence of qi and blood in his body. He unleashed an extremely terrifying punch, punching Su Yin. The two peak Saint Realm experts attacked Su Yin. The nearby Daozu was also restless and almost joined forces to kill Su Yin. But in the next moment, they were completely terrified. This dreamy figure that crossed the great continent instantly shone brilliantly. The gates of reincarnation appeared in his left hand, and heaven-punishing aura sputtered everywhere. With a boom, it smashed into the fist of the Lord of Hell. The heaven-punishing path of reincarnation erupted and clashed with the reincarnation power of the netherworld. The moment the two Abhijnas collided, the sky exploded, and a destructive aura rippled. Thick blood flowed and dyed the entire sky red. Puffed. The Lord of Hell's body shook violently, and the scene made everyone tremble. Countless large cracks appeared on his body, and he was like a broken ceramic that was about to shatter. This was the power of the heaven-punishing path of reincarnation, and it was extremely powerful. It destroyed the reincarnation power of the Lord of Hell and guided the heaven-punishing light to strike the Lord of Hell, directly injuring him. Boom! On the other side, Su Yin and the progenitor of the Xian people also exchanged a punch. However, the progenitor of the Xian people was indeed the most powerful Daozu in the world. He resisted Su Yan's punch and didn't suffer much damage. But the scene that appeared in front of everyone was relatively ridiculous. Su Yan fought three peak Saint Realm experts and still maintained a domineering stance. No, Su Yan's golden foot even stomped down. The progenitor of the Odd Heavens sect pushed his palms forward to block it, and his flesh and blood glowed as if he had turned into a boundless body to resist Su Yan's foot. However, this foot was too shocking. It was as grand as the universe, and accompanied by the sound of billions of chanting, it broke the progenitor of the Odd Heavens sect's progenitor's palms. Ah! He screamed as his head cracked. This foot was unstoppable. It was as if he was carrying the weight of the heavens, and the progenitor's knees buckled, and he knelt on the ground with a bang. Roar! The progenitor of the Odd Heavens sect roared. He was the progenitor of a supreme sect, but now he was kneeling on the ground with blood all over his body. It would be difficult for him to stand up in a short period of time. One could imagine how much humiliation he had suffered. Kill! The Lord of the Underworld and the progenitor of the Xian people attacked again. The two experts unleashed their most invincible power. They didn't believe that with their million years of glory, they wouldn't be able to suppress Su Yan, who had just broken through. The progenitor of the Odd Heaven sect roared angrily. He crawled up and wanted to join the battle. Otherwise, his reputation would be ruined. But what stunned everyone was that the progenitor of the Odd Heaven sect couldn't get up at all. Su Yan's foot was still pressing down on his head. Instead of calling it a footprint, it was better to call it a grand universe accompanied by the sound of chanting. He was cruelly suppressed and couldn't break free or fight back. It was impossible for him to stand up. I hate this. The progenitor of the Odd Heaven sect roared. Roared the progenitor of the Wondrous Heaven sect. He unleashed all of his power, but was impossible to break through. The footprint contained the power of the universe and contained Su Yan's Tao and magic. The progenitor of the Odd Heaven sect couldn't break free and could only kneel there and howl in grief. Inside the World Gate, the experts of the various factions of the immortal race remained silent. The Celestial Martial King and the Sky Tyrant Lord's expressions were cold. They had seen Su Yan's strength. They admitted that they couldn't compare to Su Yan when they were young. But once this person had the chance to grow, he would definitely be a tough nut to crack in the future. Kill him. We can't leave him alive. If we can't get him, we can only destroy him. The Celestial Martial King's eyes flashed with a sinister light. He had a way to kill Su Yan, but he had to pay a certain price. But now, he was willing to pay any price. The Sky Tyrant Lord looked at the motionless Celestial Martial King and frowned. Could it be that he had a way to kill Su Yan in the lower world? It's time to end this. The great showdown has begun. Kill! The Flame Emperor and the others had all joined the battle. Su Yan's combat prowess had already shocked the Daozu experts of the other orthodoxies. They didn't dare to stay here any longer. They all left the battlefield, wanting to leave the undying heavenly domain. Originally, they wanted to rely on the ancestral ship of the Xian people, hoping that they would be able to enter the immortal world in the future. But now, it didn't even have a trace of hope. This path was completely blocked. Chaos erupted everywhere in the undying heavenly domain. The old leader and the others had all joined the battle, chasing after the experts of the Daozu experts who were fleeing to the outer space. Their battle cries shook the heavens. Bao Kai and the others had also joined the battle. Every one of them was shouting loudly. No matter what the future held, now was the time for revenge. They were all extremely agitated. The great hatred from 1,000,000 years ago could finally be settled. The prehistoric elder brother smiled with gratification. This was much faster than he had expected. If the experts of the Celestial Court who died 1,000,000 years ago at the hands of the Xian people could see this scene in the underworld, they would be able to rest in peace. This was their race's younger generation attacking the experts of the older generation, slaughtering them mercilessly. The undying heavenly domain was dyed red with blood. Some of the great sects were completely destroyed, and the sea of stars was dyed red with blood. samsara wheel of life and death. The whole world was shaken. The master of hell and the ancestors of the Xian people couldn't suppress Su Yin even after joining forces. Instead, the master of hell finally brought out the samsara wheel. This ancient treasure shone brightly and scattered down a vast sea of reincarnation light, hoping to suppress Su Yin. Boom! The entire region was shattered into pieces. The boundless light of reincarnation formed a scene of heaven and earth being destroyed. Even Su Yan's essence blood was completely wiped out. In an instant, the sea of stars in the sky appeared, turning into a 9-colored armor to protect Su Yin. Little bastard, back then, even the stabilizing force of your celestial court was almost killed by such a situation. How can you endure it? The master of hell's expression was cold. In the past, he was glorious and looked down on the heaven and earth, looking down on Su Yin as an ant. He never thought that he would become so powerful. Old bastard, the old boy of the Odd Heavens sect, is already kneeling there, reflecting on himself. Su Yin angrily rebuked. Also, back then, if it wasn't for my body being sick, how could you clowns make things difficult for me? The ancestor of the Odd Heavens sect was full of tears. This old man was already like this, so what was the point of mentioning him? Clowns? The Lord of the Underworld was enraged. The heavenly samsara disk floated in the space-time, and boundless surging light of the great Tao of samsara flowed out. It pressed down with a crash, and soon formed a huge samsara vortex that began to devour Su Yin. Come and fight. The silent world-extinguishing halberd came back to life, majestic and vast, heavy and shocking, piercing through the heavens. Boom! The world-extinguishing halberd came back to life layer by layer, surging with boundless destructive power. This halberd had completely changed, and it was like a supreme weapon that could crush hell. With a loud rumble, it slammed forward, shattering the rain of light of the great Tao of reincarnation. This attack was peerless and terrifying. Even the samsara wheel of life and death trembled from the impact. Overall, the world-destroying halberd was too heavy. Su Yin wielded it like an unparalleled overlord, capable of splitting the heavens and stirring up storms in the sea of stars. Suppress and kill. The master of hell roared, and the samsara wheel burned continuously. The power of life and death rotated, and the order of reincarnation expanded, turning into chains of life and death that locked down the world-extinguishing halberd. However, the heavy world-extinguishing halberd also suppressed the samsara wheel, making it difficult for it to divert its power to deal with Su Yin. The two supreme treasures collided, and a destructive storm rumbled like a tsunami. Boom! In an instant, Su Yin attacked, charging towards the master of hell's true body. Just as Su Yin was infinitely close to the master of hell, a cold lightning flashed in his eyes. With a wave of his sleeve, a Tao diagram surrounded by a dense aura flew out. This was the netherworld map of the underworld. It was a precious treasure that the Lord of the Underworld had used to temper his entire life. It descended from the sky and covered Su Yan's body, intending to trap him within the world within the netherworld map. However, the master of hell's expression changed drastically. Just as the netherworld map swallowed Su Yin, that person changed. His body resonated, and a mysterious Tao diagram flashed between his eyebrows, as if a myriad of universes were blooming. Su Yan's second natal ability was completed, and a myriad world Tao diagram appeared, and holy light scattered the clouds. It was a shocking scene. The netherworld map collapsed layer by layer, exploding with tens of thousands of cracks. Kill! Su Yin roared. His figure was infinitely powerful, filled with the great might of swallowing the universe. The blood chi in his body was vast, shaking the universe's sea of stars. It was endlessly terrifying. Old trash, you can't do it. Su Yan's flesh and blood body was activated to the extreme, revealing the vast aura of the myriad worlds. It crushed heaven and earth and destroyed the netherworld map. Myriad World Fist. Su Yin roared. This punch was like billions of gods and devils bombarding the 3,000 worlds. It was like a myriad of bodies destroying the universe as it smashed towards the master of hell. Midnight, chapter 1797. The terrifying figure was dazzling. It was as if the immortal furnace of 10,000 worlds had been ignited. It was also as if the endless sun had exploded. The Xian people's ancestors' expression was ugly. He wanted to stop Su Yan, but he realized that the power of Su Yan's attack was beyond his knowledge. What kind of fist technique was this? He had never seen or heard of it before. This was Su Yan's second natural theurgy. The power of 10,000 physiques rumbled. Even the power of the immortal bell was ignited. 10,000 universes appeared and penetrated Su Yan's fist. It was as if 10,000 layers of the great Tao were coiling around it. At this moment, 10,000 worlds bloomed. They contained the strongest power of Su Yan's body. His qi and blood surged wildly and spread throughout the world. It was terrifying to the extreme. The world became blurry. It was evaporating and collapsing. It was about to disappear without a trace. The hearts of the experts were in turmoil. The map of hell exploded. From afar, Su Yan was the unparalleled god of war who tore apart hell. He was powerful and shocking. He exuded a terrifying aura. The moment the fist mark shone, it could be said that Su Yan's physical advantage was fully unleashed. No, the Lord of Hell was terrified. It was a threat that he had never felt before. It was a fatal threat. He tried to summon the Samsara disc back to suppress Su Yan, but there was no time. Moreover, the world-extinguishing halberd had suppressed the Samsara disc. The Lord of Hell gathered the strongest power in his body and tried to block Su Yan's punch. However, when Su Yan's fist mark approached, all the energy and order exploded. Only the terrifying figure shone and attacked the Lord of Hell. Boom! The myriad world fists smashed into the body of the Lord of Hell, shattering his entire chest and creating a huge bloody hole. From his neck to his lower abdomen, everything disappeared without a trace. It was smashed into smithereens, and even the essence of his qi and blood did not leak out. It was completely obliterated. The Lord of Hell howled miserably. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. He couldn't believe what had happened to him. He couldn't believe that Su Yan had smashed his entire chest with one punch. Even his physical body's vitality had dried up and declined to the extreme. The light of his primordial spirit dimmed and was about to extinguish. No, the Lord of Hell howled, his hair disheveled. He was the sovereign lord of one of the most powerful sects in the undying heaven realm, and had reigned supreme for millions of years. But now his chest had been crushed by a young war god from the heavenly court. The young elites of the immortal sects were all terrified. A fourth heaven saint had smashed the chest of a peak saint with one punch. Was his physical strength going to dominate the saint realm? Although the 10 great Daozu had died because of the heavenly tribulation, the death of the 10 great Daozu was not as shocking as the Lord of Hell being smashed apart by Su Yan. The Lord of Hell was the strongest Daozu in the world. Similarly, Hell was also one of the 10 great forces in the world. But now, the Lord of Hell was smashed apart. His body and soul were destroyed. It was too unreal for him to die, just like that. Boom! Suddenly, the heavens and earth were torn apart. The aura of the 10,000 immortals fell down, cutting apart the primordial spirit, tearing apart the body, and destroying the Tao. Everything happened too suddenly. At the moment when the Lord of Hell was killed, a terrifying sword radiance shot out. It cut through the starry sky and slashed towards Su Yan. Be careful! The Yin Emperor and the others were shocked. They could feel the killing intent of the 10,000 immortals from afar. This was the immortal slaying sword, the sharpest killing weapon in the world. Once it was unsealed, it would be incredible. This attack was also very frightening. The ancestor of the Xian people had sneak attacked Su Yan. The terrifying sword radiance cut through the ancient star sea and closed in on Su Yan. Su Yan's eyes widened. This sword radiance was too fast. He had no time to react. He also did not expect the ancestor of the Xian people to sneak attack him. Slash! The ancestor of the Xian people swung the immortal slaying sword, wanting to kill Su Yin in one move. Su Yin's 9-color battle armor was rumbling. The sword radiance splashed on the armor, causing it to emit huge sparks. Vaguely, it was beginning to crack. One should know that Su Yan's 9-color battle armor was about to explode before the sword radiance even reached him. However, Su Yan maintained his absolute calmness. This was the Dao heart that he had cultivated through life and death situations. His primordial spirit was glowing, chanting sutras, and emitting the power of the heaven-destroying sword Dao. Su Yan had a connection with the immortal slaying sword. It was difficult for him to completely control it. The ancestor of the Xian people was not made of paper. However, just by relying on this sense, Su Yin was able to interfere with the celestial slaying sword. The celestial slaying sword that was piercing towards his glabella deviated strangely in an instant. It tore apart a piece of Su Yan's face and destroyed half of the land around him. This destructive power was truly ferocious. It was a little frightening and ridiculous. Su Yan's face was burning. The immortal slaying sword's radiance was too strong. The sword radiance was overwhelming. It was difficult for him to heal his injuries quickly. The ancestor of the Xian people was furious. Su Yin had interfered with the immortal slaying sword. How'd he do it? Ever since he obtained the immortal slaying sword, it was difficult for him to completely control it. He also did not know its origin. However, how could Su Yin interfere with the immortal slaying sword? Could it be that he had a way to control this sword embryo? Old thing, the immortal slaying sword that you're so proud of can't hurt me. What are you going to use to fight me now? Su Yin shouted coldly. He had suffered heavy losses from the sudden series of battles. However, the energy in the body of a Saint Realm expert was almost endless. Su Yin was still in his strongest state. He approached the ancestor of the Xian people step by step. In the past, there were 3 peak experts against the Celestial Court branch. The ancestor of the Wondrous Heaven sect was suppressed by Su Yin. The Lord of the Underworld was destroyed by him. Now, only the ancestor of the Xian people was left. He was also the toughest bone to crack. However, Su Yin had nothing to fear. His belief was supreme. He was invincible. Young man, I admit that you're very strong. However, you can't suppress me by yourself. The ancestor of the Xian people shook his head coldly and put away the immortal slaying sword. He was worried that Su Yin would gain control of this great killing weapon. He was very confident. This was not arrogance or insolence. The ancestor of the Xian people was able to achieve his current status because of him. Wong. At the same time, an ancient and majestic stone pagoda floated above the ancestor of the Xian people. This was the most precious treasure that he had refined all his life. It had smelted all kinds of rare treasure materials. Even surging source energy leaked out from it. Everyone was shocked. This treasure was very powerful. Its source energy was flowing, and its future was limitless. It was not something the map of the underworld could compare to. In order to refine this treasure, the ancestor of the Xian people had paid a great price. Boom! The heavens fell and the earth cracked. The ancient stone pagoda was revived. The 9-story stone pagoda's divine aura suddenly surged and suppressed Su Yin. I'd like to see how much confidence you have. Su Yin waved his hand, and the world-destroying halberd appeared in his hand. He directly attacked and collided with the 9-story stone pagoda. Divine light shone from both sides. Terrifying divine power spread and boiled. However, what was shocking was that Su Yan's world-destroying halberd was too fierce and too heavy. With a boom, the divine light of the stone pagoda exploded. This was a destructive divine light that came crashing down and drowned the entire stone pagoda. The stone pagoda trembled violently and showed signs of collapsing. The Sky Tyrant Lord's face darkened. This was his weapon. It would be strange if it was stronger. It was extremely rare, even among the Emperor clans. Dong! The ancestor of the Xian people roared angrily. In an instant, he threw a punch at Su Yin. If he did not stop it in time, his weapon would be destroyed. Su Yin was naturally not afraid. He also threw a punch at the Xian people's ancestor. However, Su Yin caught the sly smile of the Xian people's ancestor. This made his heart tremble violently. He had a bad premonition. However, no matter how strong the Xian people's ancestor was, how terrifying could he be? However, it was better to be safe than sorry. Su Yin secretly took out the heaven-burying jar to prevent any mishaps. What's that? In an instant, everyone in the universe trembled. Even Sword Sek's ancestor's expression changed drastically. He felt a terrifying and transcendent aura that suppressed the 3,000 great continents in the core of the undying heavenly domain. Not good, Ron. The Sword Sek's ancestor unsheathed the Sky Tyrant's sword and rushed to Su Yan's rescue. At this moment, the Xian people's ancestor was a little scary. His aura had increased by more than 10 times. It was as if he had pierced through the Daesong's domain and suppressed the entire space. Even the Tao of heaven and earth was wailing. Daesong! Everyone was shocked. What was going on? The Xian people's ancestor had stepped into the Daesong realm? This domain was too shocking. It gushed with the light of a universe and was extremely majestic. The Tao of heaven and earth revolved around it. Even the Xian people's ancestor's aura burst out and suppressed Su Yin. Fortunately, Su Yin was prepared and used the heaven-burying jar to block it. But even so, he was still shaken violently. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose as he was sent flying. Kill! The Xian people's ancestor roared. His state could be said to be berserk. It was as if he had used some kind of forbidden secret art. His flesh and blood shone resplendently as the power of the Daesong covered the entire world and suppressed Su Yin. In the Immortal Gate, the Sky Tyrant Lord glanced at the Celestial Martial King, whose chi and blood were deteriorating. The price he paid was too great. He used his Emperor blood to forcefully gather the essence of his chi and blood to help the Xian people's ancestor temporarily enter the Daesong realm and kill Su Yin. If he was fast enough, he could have killed Su Yin in an instant. Daesong and the Saint realm were on completely different levels. The difference was too great. Even a ninth heaven saint would be suppressed in a single move by a Daesong. Old man, what did you eat? Su Yan's expression was ugly. It was difficult to block the power of the Xian people's ancestor. After all, the environment was relaxed. Daesong's power could be used. Although the Xian people's ancestor did not fully possess it, he would be half dead, if not half crippled, if he faced him head-on. Originally, Dao Shi wanted to rush over and kill the Xian people's ancestor. However, the prehistoric big brother pulled her back. His gaze was fixed on the Immortal Gate as he sensed an extremely powerful energy fluctuation. Not good, it's too late. The protectors of the royal city are here. Luan Tianwang screamed in horror as he caught sight of a silhouette gradually appearing at the end of the Celestial World Gate. It was as if an immemorial celestial phoenix was awakening, powerful enough to destroy the celestial worlds. Quickly kill him! The Celestial Martial King roared. He had already paid a great price. Even if the prehistoric Big Brother went to help, it was impossible to ignore the time limit. In terms of time, could it be that he couldn't kill Su Yin? The heaven-burying pot and world annihilation halberd were both suppressed by Daesong's might. Has the time to kill Su Yin arrived? Boom! The Celestial Martial King almost exploded. His body was destroyed. He was filled with fear. Who had come? In the next moment, his head turned cold. His head was directly chopped off. An extremely terrifying existence that resembled a primordial immortal phoenix barged into the Immortal Gate and removed the head of the Celestial Martial King. In the lower world, the powerful aura of the Xian people's ancestor seemed to have taken an aphrodisiac. His aura suddenly withered as the terrifying Daesong's might fell unceasingly. It was as if his cultivation base was being shaved away. Brothers, see you tomorrow. Chapter 1798. The entire world was dumbfounded. What was going on? Firstly, the aura of the Xian people's ancestor was greatly weakened. Just now, he was truly invincible. His aura was magnified infinitely, and his Dharma idol was tens of thousands of feet tall. He was about to step into the realm of Daesung. But now, the Xian people's ancestor seemed to have been weakened. His aura was greatly weakened. Of course, this wasn't something to be alarmed about. The main thing was that something big had happened inside the Celestial World Gate. Unfortunately, the Celestial World Gate was already closed. The world couldn't see clearly what was going on. But from the blurry Celestial World Gate, there were strands of bloody light shining down, dyeing the outer world red. It was suspected that a terrifying giant had died. The vast outer world started to tremble. Intense energy waves were generated, attracting the attention of many people. Is the savior here? Suyan's heart trembled. He knew that the mysterious skeleton was trying to find a way to solve the crisis. The most direct way was to start from the celestial world to keep the two monarch races in check. Right now, the undying heavenly domain was in grave danger. The dark calamity had to be sealed. Otherwise, this world would cease to exist. The entire world was staring at the blurry celestial world gate. This ancient stone gate was trembling slightly. Even the vast outer world was shaking. Finally, a shocking change occurred. Boom! Bloody light surged, tearing apart the heavens, collapsing time and space. A few celestial bodies and suns even exploded, making everyone tremble and panic. What exactly was going on? Who was it that had fallen? To cause such a shocking phenomenon, the heavens seemed to be weeping blood. Ah! A low and painful roar resounded through the celestial world gate. It had already reverberated through the blood-stained outer world. It sounds like that old bastard's roar, Bao Kai shouted excitedly. It seemed like a huge change had occurred in the celestial world gate. They could go all out now. Hoo-hoo! King Immortal Marshall's blood-stained head started to tremble. What kind of existence was he? Even if he encountered an old monster from the celestial world, he was still a monarch race's noble. His status was too high. Who would dare to target him directly? But now his head was directly removed. This was a great humiliation. When his mournful eyes saw the owner of his head, his blood-stained head suddenly trembled. The one who came was too shocking. It was as if an archaic immortal phoenix descended into the lower realm, its divine might matchless, blazing excessively. Its exact form couldn't be seen, but it still released a terrifying great might that covered the entire immortal gate, also suppressing a series of experts. The Marquis trembled as if he had just seen a prehistoric beast that was billions of meters tall. It was crushing the sea of stars and tearing apart the universe with its vast divine might. Guardian of the royal city, the Sky Tyrant King's tall and sturdy body shone. He didn't kneel down and was barely able to withstand this world-shocking divine might. On endless fire burned the universe, destroying all order and laws. It was enough to destroy heaven and earth. Pooh! The Sky Tyrant King coughed out a mouthful of blood. He felt like he was in purgatory. The pain was unbearable. His body was about to explode. This was an irresistible divine power. Plop! He knelt on one knee on the ground. He couldn't withstand it at all. His arrogant head hung low as he said in a trembling voice, "Greetings, King City Tao Protector. You dare to use the Celestial World Gate? How dare you?" The King City Tao Protector's expression was cold. His figure was too tall. He filled the entire Celestial World Gate. His body was covered in forbidden light. Behind him, a huge immortal phoenix was faintly discernible. Dong, dong, dong. He walked over step by step, holding the blood-stained head of the immortal martial king in his palms. Every step he took would cause the nobles to scream in agony as they were all flung through the air. This was simply an overwhelming pressure. It was impossible to resist. After a total of 9 steps, the bodies of the 9 kings exploded. They were so heavily injured that they couldn't even crawl up. They struggled in the pool of blood, but didn't dare to say a word. Their hearts were filled with terror. Not only was this King City Tao Protector terrifying, his aura was filled with boundless killing intent. It was like an army of millions, and millions were standing before them. wanting to slaughter them. Terrifying, cruel, tyrannical. It was hard to describe his divine might. This was his life and death experience. The Sky Tyrant King was also trembling. A terrifying pressure bore down on him. His muscular body was contorting as though he was about to be torn apart. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and felt dizzy. Actually, the pain on his body couldn't be compared to the pressure on his mind. He had to submit to the Tao Protector and prostrate himself in worship for generations to come. There's a reason for this, King Celestial Marshal argued. The calamity of darkness has spread to the heavens. We acted to stop the calamity, but we didn't report it in time. Nonsense, you still dare to claim credit. The King City Tao Protector roared with thunderous rage. He was a supreme war god that stood at the peak of the Immortal Gate. He was extremely terrifying and tyrannical. At the instant his palm shone, the head of the King Celestial Marshal broke apart. Even his primordial spirit was about to be destroyed. No! The King Celestial Marshal screamed in terror. His head was about to explode, and his primordial spirit was about to be destroyed. The King City Tao Protector actually wanted to kill him. However, he was powerless to resist. His heart was filled with hatred. How could he come so quickly? Earlier, Su Yin was about to be executed. He was so close, so close. Why didn't he give him a chance? In fact, he didn't expect the Tao Protector to act so tyrannically, not giving him any face. That's enough. Abruptly, a majestic voice drifted over from afar. The King City Tao Protector. There's indeed a reason for this. Although they were wrong in some areas, the heaven chosen of the Immortal Grotto died. He was a disciple that even the immortal elders of the Immortal Grotto favored. He is a precious treasure of our immortal world. Bullshit. The King City Tao Protector was enraged. He coldly glanced at the expert who just arrived and sneered. Using the Immortal Academy to suppress me? A loss is a loss. The heaven chosen of the Immortal Grotto will be reshuffled. On the contrary, the young man who killed the heaven chosen of the Immortal Grotto should be heavily nurtured. Arg! The King Celestial Marshal screamed in agony. His head was destroyed, and his primordial spirit dimmed. He really almost died. The Sky Tyrant Lord also suffered a thunderous strike. The King City Tao Protector stabbed out with a finger, causing a huge crack to appear on his chest. The pain was unbearable, but he was extremely ruthless. He endured it without making a sound, allowing his body to be torn apart. Enough. The expert who followed the King City Tao Protector here was somewhat angered. Earlier, he didn't appear because he wanted the King City Tao Protector to vent his anger. But what level were the King Celestial Marshal and the Sky Tyrant Lord? How could they be killed so easily? Do you think you can do it just because you say so? Why don't you let me be your Tao Protector? The King City Tao Protector coldly replied, not giving him any face. Tao Protector, you must be joking. The expert from the Xian people smiled bitterly. You should be punished for your wrongdoings. But isn't this a little too heavy? Just because of the private use of the Immortal World Gate, I'll kill all of them. Who dares to say a single word? The King City Tao Protector coldly snorted, after which his gaze shifted to the area where the dark calamity was spreading. Instantly, he was enraged. You still dare to allow the dark calamity to spread? You guys are really stupid. Bang, bang. As the sound of his voice faded, the Immortal Gate was once again filled with the light of blood. One after another, powerful nobles died. The entire Immortal Gate was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The younger generation were all scared silly. This was too domineering, killing nobles just like that. Similarly, the King City Tao Protector was an existence that governed the King City. One must know that the King City was the place where the title of king was bestowed. Naturally, the King City Tao Protector had immense power and was qualified to take away the king's imprint. This bunch of bastards. The expert from the Xian people was also terrified. He didn't think that they would dare to allow the dark calamity to spread. Didn't they know that almost all the children of the King City Tao Protector had died in the hands of the Dark World? Lord Tao Protector, please spare our lives. The nobles who were still alive were completely terrified. They knelt down and begged for mercy. A bunch of useless people who only know how to scheme against each other. How can you be bestowed the title of king? You even want to judge the celestial court. Do you know what kind of contributions the celestial emperor made to the immortal world? The Tao Protector's anger couldn't be quelled. Although few people dare to mention that taboo history, it didn't mean that the Tao Protector didn't know. The Xian people and the reincarnation imperial family were completely destroyed because they angered the celestial emperor. He even attacked the Dark World. The Dark World was severely damaged. Otherwise, they wouldn't have not launched a large-scale war against the immortal world in the following tens of millions of years. However, that taboo history happened very quickly. The ancient celestial emperors disappeared. In the immortal world, all kinds of experts tried to find the ancient celestial emperors. Unfortunately, they couldn't find any clues. They once speculated that the ancient celestial emperors had fallen and died in battle in the Dark World. Some also speculated that the ancient celestial emperors were severely injured and were recovering in a special place. However, after a long time, the ancient celestial emperors never appeared. However, there was another theory that was more credible. The ancient celestial emperors might not be in the three realms. This was beyond the Tao Protector's knowledge. In short, this was a historical mystery that no one could solve. The Xian people and the reincarnation imperial family hated the celestial court because the celestial emperor almost uprooted their ancestral land. The taboo history wasn't mentioned because the ancient celestial emperors dealt a heavy blow to the imperial family. Not only the two imperial families, but other imperial families also suffered. This concerned the dignity of the imperial families. Since the ancient celestial emperors disappeared, this matter gradually became a taboo history. The human world. The Tao Protector stared at the current human world. Sadness filled his heart. The human world was not much inferior to the immortal world. Would history repeat itself? What kind of fate would the immortal world have in the future? The structure of the three realms collapsed. If it wasn't for the ancient celestial emperors, perhaps the Dark World would have launched a second large-scale attack. However, after a long time, the Dark World would most likely recover. Would this day be far away? Tao Protector, please spare our lives. We know our mistakes. The living noble knelt and begged for mercy. Killing you is letting you off easy. I'll take away your noble mark and send you to the first battlefield to fight. You can't return for 10,000 years. The Tao Protector said coldly. No. Luan Tianwang trembled in fear. The immortal world and the Dark World had fought for a long time and were divided into a series of battlefields. However, the first battlefield was the most dangerous. The possibility of Daesong dying was very high. However, it was almost impossible to return alive after 10,000 years. This was equivalent to sentencing them to death. You're acting arbitrarily. The important people of the Xian people were furious. Luan Tianwang and the others were still fine, but King Immortal Marshal and Sky Tyrant Tianwang were both honorable people. Once they were sent to the battlefield, it would affect the prestige of the Emperor race. Do you need me to call for a meeting of the nobles? After the Tao Protector said this, Sky Tyrant Tianwang and King Immortal Marshal's faces turned ashen. The Tao Protector had the Emperor's order. Everyone in the undying heavenly domain was still alive. The immortal world had fought against the Dark World for countless years. They opened up a series of battlefields to fight against the experts of the Dark World. Every year, countless experts died. Many terrifying noble descendants died in battle. Most of the races in the immortal world and the Dark World couldn't live under the same sky. Once what they did in the undying heavenly domain was spread out, it would be a huge problem. Luan Tianwang and the others were in despair. Their noble mark was taken away from them. The Tao Protector of the King City could control the nobles. This was a fact. He also had the qualifications to take away their noble mark. In any case, this fall was too big. They didn't expect that this matter would alert the Tao Protector of the King City. Moreover, the human world would send an emperor's order to suppress the immortal world. I hate this. King Immortal Marshal roared in his heart. After causing so much trouble, he didn't even manage to complete his plan. This was a great humiliation. In the next moment, he noticed the shocking immortal energy rising from the undying heavenly domain. Instantly, he felt that there was still hope. Just now, he used a secret technique to help the people of the lower world break through to the Daesong realm. Although he failed, he still managed to break through to the quasi-Daesong realm with the help of his own blood essence. Boom! The energy storm in the undying heavenly domain rumbled. Strictly speaking, these people wouldn't be able to affect the immortal world that much. However, the environment in the undying heavenly domain wasn't as good as before. "You can't kill me," the ancestor of the celestial race shouted coldly. He had broken through to the half-step great saint realm. His aura skyrocketed, and a majestic and vast figure appeared behind him. It was indomitable, and its might shook the world. "You have no hope. Something big must have happened at the gate of the immortal world. Your wish is going to fail." Su Yin replied coldly. "You're still so stubborn even now. Old man, even if you step into the Daesong realm now, what can you do?" "Ha ha ha." The Xian people's ancestor laughed. "So what if I die? If I don't die in your hands, I'll die in your hands. 1,000,000 years of killing is enough for me. 1,000,000 years of glory is enough for me. My life's glory is enough." "You must be dreaming." Su Yan's blood essence surged as he glared at the Xian people's ancestor. "What can you do to me?" The Xian people's ancestor was very calm. He smiled coldly and said, "You destroyed the legend of the Celestial Court, slaughtered everyone in the Celestial Court branch in the 9 tripod states, and led people to attack the Xianhuang universe and killed countless creatures. You're just an ant that survived. Even if I give you the battle strength of a saint, what can you do to me? I'll capture you alive." Su Yan reared his head back and roared. The silent heaven-burying cave instantly pierced through Su Yan's body. At this moment, Su Yan possessed the combat strength of a peak saint. His entire aura and energy became wild and violent. "I'll beat you into a dog again," he roared, his black hair fluttering in the wind. His aura was terrifying and powerful as he attacked the Xian people's ancestor. "Brothers, I'm done updating. Sorry. After 2 days of continuous outbursts, I'll stop today. I'm too tired, but I'll update more. Also, this is a big chapter. Many brothers are asking where to vote. They download Zongheng or Panda. You can only vote at the original address. Panda's brothers can only vote at the supported works on the book page. It's harder to find." Chapter 1799. Evil Creature. The Xian people's ancestor flew into a rage. He was now a half-step Daesong, and his aura was much stronger than before. Once he unleashed it, the mountains would collapse and the seas would shatter. Vast divine might was unleashed and swept across hundreds of great continents. Countless creatures felt their hair stand on end. This was a power that surpassed Daozu. It was beyond their understanding. It was too majestic and vast. It was a completely different concept from Daozu. This was only a half-step Daesong. If it was a Daesong in his prime, how powerful would he be? Boom! The Xian people's ancestor raised his hand, which covered the sky and the sun. He stretched it towards Su Yan. Along the way, millions of auspicious lights bloomed, and Taoist rule spread. All kinds of unimaginable phenomena appeared. It was as if a celestial gate was blooming. The people were shocked. They felt that Su Yan was insignificant. It seemed that a Daesong and a saint couldn't be lumped together. Heavens, what kind of trump card did Su Yan use? Someone exclaimed. They saw that Su Yan's aura was surging violently. It was as if a pinnacle saint was howling. It was overflowing with great Tao radiance. Soon, it was so magnificent that it seemed as if a great universe was blooming. The fusion of the sky-burying cave and Su Yan made up for a large gap between their realms. The fist imprint that erupted in an instant caused wind and thunder to rage in the world. Many large continents rumbled and trembled. This fist imprint was truly extremely powerful. Boom! The whole area exploded. Heaven and earth were turned upside down. A huge hole appeared in the sky. Destructive waves rippled and spread toward the distant world. Some Daozu immediately tried to isolate themselves from the storm. However, Once they used their methods to block it, they were all crushed until their energy order collapsed. They were almost threatened. They couldn't help but be shocked. Whoosh! Su Yin rose from the ground and charged toward the outer space. He escaped into the void. Where do you think you're going? The Xian people's ancestors' giant hand stretched out again. It was so huge that it covered the sky and covered the earth. The people of the world were shaken. This was Daesong, able to pierce through the world with a raise of his hand, even extending into outer space. He was truly powerful and world-shocking. The first ancestor of the Xian people thought that Su Yin was trying to escape. This palm strike was exceptionally terrifying. The vast void was shattered as a huge golden palm print rushed towards Su Yin, filling up the vast void. Battle in the outer realm. Su Yin roared angrily and punched out like a bolt of lightning. Energy surged out from his body. Su Yin's fist was so terrifying that even the Lord of Hell would find it difficult to contend with it. However, the half-step Daesong's strength was quite barbaric. Su Yin's fist was rumbling like thunder, causing his body to stagger. You're courting death. I'll let you know how strong a half-step Daesong is. The first ancestor of the Xian people shouted coldly. He took a step forward and stepped into outer space. The aura he emitted was too terrifying. It crushed the void. The energy waves released from his body were boundless. Suppress. He roared. His Dharma power was boundless. Even the void could not stop his power. A huge black hole appeared in outer space. It was about to swallow Su Yin whole. Ah! Su Yin roared into the sky. The aura he emitted was even more intense. His body erupted with the light of reincarnation. Rolling heaven-punishing power came down to resist the half-step Daesong's power. This area was extremely powerful. If the first ancestor of the Xian people was a Daesong, Su Yin would have turned around and left. Although he had the burial cave to make up for some of his power, it was not something that Su Yin had cultivated. He could not be considered a pinnacle saint. The battle reached its climax. It was impossible for a half-step Daesong to suppress Su Yin. Their energies collided and tore apart the endless void. It also caused a huge energy explosion. The first ancestor of the Xian people had a terrifying aura. His eyes emitted a strong, murderous intent. He was no ordinary person. All kinds of divine powers were activated. When his eyes opened and closed, the power of heaven punishing leaked out. A terrifying soul-killing aura spread and closed in on Su Yin. Su Yin's forehead shone brightly. His primordial spirit was on the verge of collapsing. It was as if he had fallen into a black purgatory and was being judged by thousands of tribulations. Break! Su Yin's primordial spirit was full of yang qi. It evolved into the passage of time and cut off the influence of the heaven-punishing eyes. Boom! At this moment, Su Yin was being suppressed. The first ancestor of the Xian people was going crazy. A series of energy substances leaked out of his body. They all contained the power of Daesong. They destroyed the sky and crushed the void. They suppressed Su Yin. Is the Daesong really that strong? Bao Kai was worried. Su Yin was completely suppressed. Even if he had mastered the 10 ways of heaven punishing, the first ancestor of the Xian people also had the heaven punishing eyes. It's a change in power. Dao Shui said softly. They are not on the same level. If Su Yan's true strength was at the peak of the saint level, he would not be fighting so hard. However, he has just broken through to the saint level. It is very difficult for him to fight a half-step Daesong. At the same time, the first ancestor of the Xian people could also see Su Yan's strength. He intentionally or unintentionally avoided his physical body. He did not want to fight him head-on. He used the boundless mana in his body to suppress him. Moreover, the first ancestor of the Xian people was getting stronger and stronger. He had just obtained the essence of the celestial martial king and had not had time to refine it. Now, his physical body was becoming more and more resplendent. The energy substances leaking out of his body were also becoming more and more shocking. The saints in the sky were shocked. What a terrifying body of energy this was. It surpassed the saints by too much. Some people even suspected that the first ancestor of the Xian people was going to break through to the Daesong realm in one go. You can't. The first ancestor of the Xian people sneered. He also used a series of powerful techniques. The battle in the outer space had reached its climax. All kinds of secret techniques were used. Killing intent surged. The sound of the battle was even more deafening than the roar of a tsunami. Suppress. The first ancestor of the Xian people roared. He activated his entire body's essence. At the same time, a huge life form was emitting a destructive aura. Boom! All of a sudden, a terrifying aura was released. It was heavy to the extreme. In an instant, it broke apart the surging energy fluctuations in the sky. The pitch-black Fontian halberd soared through the sky. It was excessively heavy, and the pressure it exerted was endless. It continuously released a terrifying divine force, blasting away the power of the first ancestor of the Xian people. Su Yin was like a heaven-splitting overlord. His roar shook the starry sky. He grabbed the Fontian halberd with one arm and attacked. This attack was especially powerful. A huge explosion occurred in the outer space, and a huge black hole was formed. It rushed towards the body of the first ancestor of the Xian people. The world-extinguishing halberd soared through the sky. Its power was endless. The energy released by the first ancestor of the Xian people was continuously shattered. Clang! All of a sudden, a ray of sword light was emitted. It emitted an aura that could destroy 10,000 immortals. The immortal slaying sword. This is the real deal. Within the immortal gate, the protector of the royal city was astonished. The owner of the immortal slaying sword was an extremely glorious existence. He was a peerless legend even in the immortal world. When he dominated the cultivation world, the protector of the royal city hadn't been born yet. This immortal slaying sword was definitely the real deal. Its murderous aura was too strong. Millions of rays of sword light shone resplendently, collapsing the sky. Boom! The immortal slaying sword and the world-extinguishing halberd collided. Huge sparks flew. The deafening sound shook the world. Su Yan's arm suddenly sank. The world-extinguishing halberd almost flew out of his hand. Moreover, his entire body was covered in bloody wounds. This made him shocked. This ominous weapon was indeed terrifying and invincible. It could easily cut through his body. Do you admit defeat? The first ancestor of the Xian people sneered. He wielded the immortal slaying sword. He wasn't afraid that Su Yin could control it. He was already a half-step Daesong. His control of the immortal slaying sword was even more exquisite. The previous incident wouldn't happen. Are you very proud? Su Yin looked down on him. A half-step Daesong, even after so long, can't suppress me. A cultivator who just broke through into the Saint Realm. What do you have to be proud of? Scoundrel! The first ancestor of the Xian people roared. The immortal slaying sword once again overflowed with resplendent light. When this golden sword core was activated to the extreme, heaven and earth collapsed. An extremely terrifying scene appeared. That was the withered death of millions of immortals. Endless great worlds were collapsing. This was an exceptionally terrifying strike. Su Yin felt a chill from head to toe. He felt as if he was going to be cut down. He was incomparably shocked. This sword core was too terrifying. Could it be the most powerful killing weapon in history? Only a half-step Daesong could barely display some of its true strength. Hand over your life. The first ancestor of the Xian people opened a path with the immortal slaying sword. He wanted to try and kill Su Yin. The energy all over his body leaked out. Brilliant light rose and covered the entire sky. It also transmitted a terrifying sealing force. This sword tore through everything. The scene was monstrous, and Su Yin looked exceptionally small. When he was infinitely close to Su Yin, he suddenly stretched out his palm and roared, "Sword, come!" How? The first ancestor of the Xian people's expression changed drastically. The immortal slaying sword was completely out of his control. An ancient god seemed to have been awakened by Su Yin. With a rumble, it broke free from his palm and fell into Su Yan's hand. Slash! Su Yin roared and swung the immortal slaying sword. With a whoosh, he cut off all the energy that the first ancestor of the Xian people had released. Heaven and earth were severed. It was as if a long river of time had been cleaved out. Everyone in the world was stunned. The immortal slaying sword had been withdrawn by Su Yin. What was going on? Wasn't this too funny? Fairy Zixia suspected that the mysterious skeleton had taught Su Yin the secret art to control the immortal slaying sword and took back the sect's most precious treasure. Kill! Su Yin roared and charged over. He had put away the fairy slaying sword. His physical body emitted a terrifying and boundless blood essence light. The power of 10,000 physiques resonated, and a vast heaven burial aura surged out. How dare you bully me? The first ancestor of the Xian people was furious. He could see Su Yan's intention. He wanted to fight him in close combat. The sword just now had cut off the energy in his body. The loss was too great. He could only fight by relying on his physical body. He didn't believe that his half-step Daesong body couldn't stop Su Yin. Boom! However, the moment Su Yan's body came crashing down, the terrifying power of 10,000 worlds spread out. It was as if he carried the weight of 10,000 universes on his back. His extremely valiant aura covered the sky and smashed into his own body. At this moment, the first ancestor of the Xian people realized how much the Lord of the Underworld had suffered. This kid's body was too ridiculous. His divine body towered into the sky, and his chi and blood were vast. It flooded the dilapidated battlefield. Boom! Su Yin threw a punch. The first ancestor of the Xian people couldn't resist. Even his half-step Daesong body couldn't withstand Su Yan's terrifying strength. A bloody hole appeared in his body. The first ancestor of the Xian people roared. He couldn't even withstand a single blow. His body was about to fall apart. The experts of the immortal sects were stunned. This young man's body was too shocking. No wonder Xian Yu was defeated. The half-step Daesong body was being beaten up. The first ancestor of the Xian people couldn't stop him even if he used all his strength. Su Yin threw punch after punch. Every punch was magnificent. The first ancestor of the Xian people screamed in pain as his body was sent flying. Su Yin chased after him. Punch after punch. He was about to destroy the source of life in the first ancestor of the Xian people's body. Bastard! The first ancestor of the Xian people howled in grief. It was too tragic. He was beaten like a dog and couldn't escape. He was also heavily injured. His body was riddled with holes. There were already 18 bloody holes in his body. I've said that I'll beat you like a dog. Su Yin sneered. If you didn't use the immortal slaying sword to suppress me, you wouldn't have ended up like this. Accept your fate. Chapter 1800. When Su Yan's saint body exploded, it could be said to be invincible. It was like a supreme killing weapon that stood between heaven and earth, emitting boundless saint power and the power of the thousand-world fist. Puff! The Xian people's ancestor was about to explode. He spat out mouthfuls of blood, and his heart was filled with bitterness. What kind of constitution was this? Once he got close, he felt like the universe was pressing down on him, suffocating the Xian people's ancestor. He was invincible in the same generation. Even a half-step Daesong could not compete with Su Yin in terms of physical strength. He was about to give up. What kind of monster was this? How could his saint body suddenly reach such a level? He could destroy all the saints and dominate the world. The Xian people's ancestor is going to be defeated. Everyone in the world was shocked. 1,000,000 years ago, the celestial court was destroyed by Su Yin. The ancestor of the wondrous heaven sect, one of the 3 instigators, was suppressed by the celestial court. The Lord of the Underworld was also defeated by Su Yin. Now, the only remaining Xian people's ancestor was also defeated. Similarly, in the undying celestial domain, blood flowed like rivers, and war cries shook the heavens and earth. The war was getting more and more brutal. The old leaders were bathed in blood, and their eyes were bloodshot. Their roars shook the vast starry sky, and they wanted to destroy all the forces that attacked the celestial court in one go. Kill! They roared, and their strongest combat power was unleashed, pressuring the major sects. Some of the major sects were completely destroyed, and some Daozu was killed. In short, this was a great settling of scores from 1,000,000 years ago. None of the Celestial Court's experts who were involved showed mercy. They all took revenge in the cruelest way possible. Kill! The undying celestial domain was in chaos. Gods were crying and ghosts were crying everywhere. Some of the major sects had already fallen apart before the experts of the Celestial Court arrived. A large number of experts fled with their treasuries. It would be too late if they did not leave now. The whole world was scared. Was the Celestial Court going to be invincible? If it were not for the Celestial World and the Dark World, the Celestial Court's era would have come again. The ancestor of the Xian people let out a miserable shriek as he tumbled down from the outer space after being punched by Su Yan. The scene was too horrible to look at. The glorious ancestor of the Xian people was beaten until he was howling in pain. His broken body smashed into one mountain after another. To be honest, this scene was a bit surreal. What kind of character was the ancestor of the Xian people? He was a supreme giant who looked down on the world. But now, he was being beaten up by Su Yan. Su Yan had broken through to the divine transcendence realm, devoured a large amount of immortal origin, and tempered his body in the heaven-punishing Tendao tribulations. This caused Su Yan's potential to be terrifying and ridiculous. Of course, the main reason was the birth of the Thousand-World Fist, which allowed Su Yan to fully utilize his advantages. Every punch was extraordinarily shocking and filled with boundless ferocity. It was the power of the ancestors of the Xian people. His fists were filled with a vast, bloody aura. Images of mountains of corpses and seas of blood appeared. It was as if he had refined Su Yan's life experience. Every punch was filled with boundless murderous intent. It was as if he had smashed the gates of hell, shocking the world and making ghosts and gods weep. Die! Su Yan roared. His blood-stained hair danced in the wind. He was powerful and intimidating. His fists were magnificent and majestic. They could easily suppress a large continent. One of the legs of the ancestor of the Xian people was directly smashed by Su Yan. He fell to the ground and almost couldn't get up. Junior, you've gone too far. The ancestor of the Xian people roared in grief. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He was filled with rage. He wanted to borrow another 500 years from the heavens to break through to the Daesong realm and kill Su Yan. Su Yan was doing this on purpose. He was intentionally tormenting himself so that the divine might that he had accumulated over a long period of time would completely disappear on this day. What a humiliation. It was truly a great humiliation. It would be better for him to just kill himself. This kid is really amazing. The important figure of the Xian people said in a low voice. No wonder, Xian, you couldn't defeat him. In the celestial world, people like him were rare. Maybe he would be qualified to enter the celestial cave in the future. Hearing the exclamation of the Xian people, King Immortal Marshal couldn't help but say, he's just relying on external forces to mature his body. He's barely in the half-step Daesong realm. He can't be considered a true half-step Daesong realm. And it's not bad. The important figure of the Xian people said, if I'm not wrong, this should be the heaven burial body. I didn't expect to see such a body. This is the strongest body in the mortal world. During the glorious era, the heaven burial body was invincible in the celestial world. That's in the past. King Immortal Marshal wasn't convinced. There are many invincible bodies in the celestial world. Also, the mortal world has always been incompatible with our celestial world. It's impossible for this generation's heaven burial body to mature in the celestial world. There's no hope at all. King Immortal Marshal's words were directed at the Tao Protector of the royal capital. He didn't want the Tao Protector to observe Su Yan. There were many grudges involved here. Although so much time has passed, he believed that some people in the celestial world wouldn't want to see the invincible body of the mortal world once again shine in the celestial world. The Tao Protector glanced at King Immortal Marshal. He was instantly dumbfounded and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Since you have accepted your punishment, all of you can scram. The Tao Protector coldly spoke. Report to the #1 battlefield tomorrow. The Sky Tyrant Lord's face trembled. After that, he sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that in the end, he would be sent to the celestial world. He really wanted to stall for time. Even if Su Yin was brought to the celestial world, he still had a way to kill him. But it was too late to say anything now. The Tao Protector of the royal capital intended to protect Qin Wentian. As for King Immortal Marshal, he almost went berserk. His body was almost completely destroyed. If he wanted to reconstruct it, he would need to spend a lot of time and resources. But the Tao Protector of the royal capital wanted them to report to the celestial world tomorrow. Wasn't this the same as sending him to his death? Fellow Taoist, a major character of the Xian people wanted to plead for mercy. Even if they were really sent to the battlefield, they wouldn't be in such a hurry. I've already given enough face to the Emperor race. The Tao Protector coldly spoke. Scram immediately. King Immortal Marshal's heart was filled with rage. But no matter how angry he was, he didn't dare to behave atrociously in front of the Tao Protector. If not, his punishment would only increase. On the battlefield, screams of agony rang out. The ancestor of the Xian people was almost crippled. He couldn't even crawl up and could only struggle in a pool of blood. His heart was filled with grief and anger. He was defeated by Su Yin at the last moment. How would he accept this? Kacha! In the next moment, his skull cracked. Su Yin was attacking his primordial spirit. He wanted to tear apart his sea of consciousness and extract all the things that happened 1,000,000 years ago and reveal them to the world. Something must have happened in the Celestial Sect. There was a major turning point. The Celestial Sect even had the power to reseal the Dark Calamity. It must be the savior that the mysterious skeleton brought over. No matter what, Su Yin wanted the Xian people's ancestors' memories to surface. He wanted to reveal all the things that happened that year and reveal them to the world. Even in the celestial world, the Emperor race was so terrifying that no one could shake them. Su Yin didn't want to let them have it easy and tarnish their reputation. Unfortunately, Su Yin was overthinking. The sea of consciousness of the Xian people's ancestor was densely packed with countless sealing powers. Once the memories were forcefully extracted, his sea of consciousness would collapse and all the memories would disappear. Little worm, the Xian people's ancestor laughed angrily. You're overestimating yourself. Do you think you're strong? Do you think you can investigate the Emperor race? Don't tell me you're delusional enough to try to move the Emperor race. Ha ha ha. Who do you think you are? Bam! Su Yan's fist landed on his head. The Xian people screamed in agony. Half of his face cracked. Before he could recover from the pain, the other half of his face was also smashed by Su Yan. Roar! The Xian people's ancestor roared. His body was in a terrible state. He was too angry. He didn't fear death, but he didn't want to be crushed and humiliated by Su Yan. What are you roaring for? Weren't you very arrogant and proud just now? Su Yan slapped him again. The Xian people's ancestor's body trembled. Bone fragments were spurting out of his pores. He couldn't even get up now. Little B Asterisk starred. You've gone too far. The Xian people's ancestor roared wildly. His blood-stained body burned. Although he was severely injured, he wasn't an ordinary person. He created a scene of heaven and earth collapsing. His eyes burned with 2 heavens of life. He roared, I'll take you down with me. Boom! In the distant world, the dilapidated ancestral land of the Xian people disintegrated with a loud boom. Whoosh, whoosh! Endless immortal radiance surged out from underground. It looked divine and holy, but it was also accompanied by the howling of a monstrous Yin wind. It shattered the entire sky. The land of the immortal continent exploded. It was accompanied by the awakening of an aura that surged to the 3,000 continents. The saints were terrified. Billions of living beings felt like their bodies were about to split apart. They felt like a slumbering, peerless overlord had awakened. What's that? Su Yan's expression was grave. An extremely terrifying wave was awakening. The aura was divine and holy, like the blooming of the immortal world. At other times, Yin Qi filled the sky. It was as if the end of the world was approaching. An unparalleled aura spread out. It crossed the vast space and pressed down on the battlefield. This was the ultimate trump card of the Xian people's ancestor. It was a little frightening. Ah, Su Yan roared. His body was burning so brightly that it was about to explode. His forehead was shining brightly. It was as if the endless scorching sun had shattered. Su Yan couldn't control the terrifying change in situation. This was because the two masses of qi that had once fused in the depths of his body were roaring on their own. The black and white qi had already been swallowed by Su Yan. Now, the black and white qi were about to appear again. The two great qi revolved in his body. This was terrifying and outrageous. What had the Xian people's ancestor summoned? It caused the black and white qi in his body to roar. At the same time, the silent source of darkness suddenly went berserk. The sealed land burned countless times brighter. It was as if billions of black moons were exploding at the same time. The dam of darkness burst. It was terrifying. The dark tide roared and swept across the entire heavenly world. In fact, within the dark tide, terrifying figures appeared one after another. Their demonic bodies were terrifying. The terrifying creatures of the dark world were awakening. It was unknown whether it was because of the summoning of the primogenitor of the immortal race or because of the eruption of the black and white qi. In a short period of time, the energy sealed by the celestial world gate was riddled with holes. Even the celestial world gate was shaking. The celestial martial king and the sky tyrant lord, who were about to leave the celestial world gate, looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock. One should know that the dark matter didn't cause such a big commotion before. What was happening now? Evil creature. The guardian's expression was calm. He ordered a follower beside him and shouted, "Carry my battle order. Summon the world to suppress the darkness." The guardian's expression was countless times colder. He was like a peerless military marquis who suppressed the ancient river. Behind him, a terrifying forbidden light rose. It was as if a celestial phoenix was spreading its wings. His attendant's hands trembled as he heard the military order issued by the protector. What kind of military order was this? It was extremely glorious. Once it was sent out, it would suppress the various ancient worlds of the celestial world. It would cause a huge storm. Kill. The Xian people's ancestor roared. From the collapsed land of the celestial continent, an artifact rushed out. That is, Su Yan's eyes widened. He saw a 9-colored heavenly coffin pressing down on him. The black and white qi in his body roared. Even their form ushered in a huge change. They were no longer in the form of fog.